every story can change the world.
Together we are Global Speakers Talk.
Hello, beautiful souls and global change makers. I want to issue a very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us from all across the world. My name is Kimberly Parry, and it is my honor to open today's session of the third annual International Live Conference hosted by Global Speakers Talk. Global Speakers Talk was founded in 2021 by Anshu Tiwari, and it began as a simple dream. It was a dream to create a safe, powerful, heart-led space for voices that were unheard and unseen. Today, that dream has grown into a global family where speakers, leaders, coaches, and visionaries come together not only to speak, but to lift up, inspire, and empower each other. This community is truly special because it holds a beautiful blend of voices, everywhere from professional keynote speakers, emerging new speakers, experienced leaders, and passionate individuals who want to share their lived stories. Here at Global Speakers Talk, every voice matters and every journey is honored. We celebrate both seasoned professionals and those taking their very first step because this is a stage that believes in giving equal opportunity, equal respect, and equal visibility. We are deeply grateful for all the souls who have supported and shaped this community from the early days of Global Speakers Talk until today. This includes incredible contributors like Josephine, Maria, Dinesh Desai, JB Herrera, and others. Let's start by giving each one of them a little round of applause for where we've come today. Each of these names carries a story of dedication, of love, and unwavering support for Global Speakers Talk. And Global Speakers Talk stands strong because you stand with us. If you feel connected to this mission and want to get involved, drop a message in the chat. This community continues to grow because people like you choose to grow with us. I am so grateful to be able to start off this conference today on leadership resilience. This is a topic that is increasingly important as we live in a day of massive change, massive disruption, and as the face of leadership and the face of the workplace are changing dynamically. This requires leaders who have agility, who have vision, who have courage, and who have dedication to lead in this new age with resilience, with grace, and with style. So today we have an incredible panel of authorities, of leaders in the field who are here to help you gain tools and inspiration that will help you lead with resilience in this modern age. Today, we are going to start off with Cheryl Meyer, who is, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Cheryl Meyer is an expert who is known for her work in the wellness community. She has reversed fibromyalgia, fatty liver, and type 2 diabetes by eliminating toxins and eating the organic rainbow and adopting healthy lifestyle habits and helping others do the same. She's an award-winning author, a health coach, a Psych-K facilitator, and she's also a podcaster, teacher, and speaker. She holds a BA from UC Berkeley and is a health coach from IIN. Cheryl's superpower is helping others return to wellness, to help them eat the organic rainbow as the foundation for wellness, and with the understanding that self-love is the foundation to all of our hopes and dreams. Let's welcome Cheryl to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I am coming to you from beautiful Sedona, Arizona. And I'm very passionate about this subject because it was something that bankrupted my body while I was building my solopreneur business. So I have a lot of things that I want to talk to you about building a life that can be resilient no matter what life throws at you. I had a jewelry business. My customers were all over the United States. I was selling big box jewelers. I was manufacturing in the Orient. I was constantly on the move and I was working 24/7. And my body started to complain, and it was going through my head with the speed of light until one morning I couldn't get out of bed because everything hurt. So I had not put the building blocks into place to be resilient in my business. And what did it matter that my business was successful since I bankrupted myself? And what I want to talk to you about, because I've done a lot of thought on it, is what exactly is self-care, because it's not just taking a day off or getting a massage. It's putting the building blocks into your life in all aspects of your life, be it physical, mental, social, spiritual, or practical. And so I'm just going to highlight some of those things in each of those areas because it's that important. Now, I've come to believe, because I was eating the standard American diet that had absolutely no nutrition in it, tasted good, but it was all fake. It was all chemicals. And eating the rainbow of organic foods from a farm as close to you as you can get is the foundation for wellness, because those are the building blocks that your body needs to be resilient, to have a strong immune system, and to survive anything that is thrown at you so that you can still thrive and keep going. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what the benefits are of eating this kind of diet, because each color has different gifts that get together and party in your body and create overall wellness, which is crucial. So self-love makes it so that eating and cooking this kind of food is no longer a bother, because you love yourself so much and you know how terrific it makes you feel that it is totally worth the effort to do it. So one of the things that it does is it turns on all your cognitive thinking. It gives you better decision making. It brings you greater creativity because your vagal nerve takes all the phytonutrients and all those colors and delivers them to your brain so that you can be your all-time best. It also delivers and turns on all your happy hormones. We're having a depression problem across the world, and I think it's largely because of the food we're eating. If we're eating chemicals, it snuffs out all our hormones. So when you're eating all of the colors of the rainbow, you get your dopamine, which is pleasure, your serotonin, which is happiness, your oxytocin, which bonds you to others, and your GABA, which keeps your anxiety low in order to run your life and your business. Now, being that happy, what does that do? It creates great relationships with your family, with your employees, with your customers, with your suppliers. People want to be around you because you're happy, and it balances out your insulin so that you're even tempered and lovely to be around all the time. Having had type 2 diabetes, which I have reversed, as well as 3 autoimmune diseases that I woke up with that morning, I can tell you that eating all the colors of the rainbow of real food makes a huge difference on balance in your body. What else does it do for you? It allows you to show yourself the love that will keep you out of your own way, to get over any mountain and to know that nothing is impossible because you feel so good about yourself. You're willing to take on any goal, any subject, anytime with any person. So that's the first thing. What else do you need to do? You need to take care of your stress. Stress interrupts every function in your body. And it's not hard to control. I had no cortisol left when I got sick because I had burned it all up being chased by a tiger 24/7. So I had to rebuild it from the bottom up. It's as easy as 4 minutes twice a day to do breathing exercises, which resets your parasympathetic nervous system, takes the top off the toxic stress, and allows you to function in a healthy wellness position so that you can be everything you're meant to be. So stress is huge. It's about sleep. Now, do you think your whole body sleeps when you sleep? It does not. While you're sleeping, your body's going through a complete tune-up, and you need that tune-up in order to be your best self when you're awake. By getting 7 hours of sleep, that last hour from 6 to 7 is when it sweeps out the plaque, which is why you won't get any kind of dementia, because you got all the sleep that your brain was able to finish its tune-up, and you enter the world from your very best possible position. It's about movement, which gives you flexibility. It gives you muscle strength, and it releases endorphins, which is another feel great hormone, so that it adds to the other ones so that you're on top of the world every day when you enter whatever it is that you're doing, be it your business or the rest of your life. It's about eliminating all the poisons in your food and environment, which is why it's so important that you eat real organic food so that the poisons aren't there, because the poisons will slow you down and make you sick. It's about the poison sprayed on the food that isn't organic. It's about the poisons in the ultra-processed food. It's about all the poisons in your personal care products and your cleaning products. You don't want any of those poisons in your life, so you need to make a plan and slowly, one by one, eliminate them and replace them with products that don't have those poisons in them, so that you are functioning as your full self that you came here to be. And I don't know about you, but I have great passion about what I do, and I want to give it everything I've got, and I don't want poisons or food or stress or that lack of sleep to slow me down. So those are all the physical things that you need to do to be resilient. And it's kind of like the Three Little Pigs. Do you want the straw house, the stick house, or the brick house? I want the brick house, so that no matter what happens, I never end up. It took me 5 years to climb out of the hole that I got into. I don't ever want to go there again, because once you start to feel great, it's worth it to keep feeling great. What else? In terms of relationships, by turning on all your happy hormones, your relationships are way better, and they're better in all aspects of your life. The Blue Zones Project, which was a National Geographic project, proved that relationships and community are number one for wellness. So you want relationships around you that are like you, that support you. And I just read a study yesterday that eating together is also crucial for long-term health and well-being. So you want to create the community that will bring you joy and that will support your life. Spiritually, I have started doing something called heart math, and it's the favorite thing I have learned since I got sick. And by the way, since I got sick, nothing about my life is the same. Everything has changed. All of my relationships, the man in my life has changed. What I'm doing for a living. I sold my jewelry business. Now I'm out there crowing about how great it feels to feel good. So what do I do spiritually? I do heart math. Now, we have two brains. We have the brain in our head, and we have a brain in our heart that has as many neurons as the brain in our head. But the difference about our heart is it exudes way out of our body and touches other people in our area. Your brain is where your ego is. So it will talk trash to you. It wants to maintain the status quo. And it's a breathing method that takes you out of your brain, quiets your ego. You put your hands over your heart. You go into your heart. And that's where self-love, love, compassion, kindness, gratitude all live. So you go into that space. And then if you want to manifest great things in your life, You're now at a vibration where the universe can hear you, whether you want to call that your higher self or God or whatever. They hear you as you are telling them what you're grateful for. They want to give you more. And when you go into love and kindness and compassion and you go out into the world that way, everyone around you feels it and it completely changes your life. And then the last part is financial stability. You have to put the pieces in place to have that practical brick there as well. And when you have all of these different areas in your life supported, and you're not going to do it all at once, so do them one at a time, then as you go into the world, it doesn't matter what happens to you because you will be so resilient. You have such a background of stuff to pull upon. You will always be your all-time best to interact with the world, to have your passion, to have your mission heard, and to be the person that you came to be here, which is a person in love. So resilience to me is putting all the puzzle pieces into place so that no matter what happens, I feel fantastic every day, and I communicate that out to everyone I come in contact with because that's how I get my message heard, and it's so worth it. So start with food. That's the foundation for your health, and then move on to self-love and self-care because putting all those building blocks into place is what will allow you to make a difference in the world, which is what you came here to do. So thank you for having me. I am thrilled to be able to share this message with you. I have a free book on radical self-care and other resources available on the front page of my website. And there are several books there. You can click on any of them. It will take you to Issue, which is where all my free ebooks live, including a holistic magazine of A to Z of everything you need to know about all my healthy habits, how to eat out and stay healthy, how to build relationships that support you, how to eliminate all the toxins in your life, and how to form a significant community that will make a difference in your life. Feels Good to Feel Good. That's the name of my first book. It's on Amazon, but I have plenty of great resources to get you started right from the first page of my website. And I hope to see, and if you have any questions, you can also write to me at CherylMHealthView@gmail.com, and I will answer you because I want you to feel as great as I do.
Cheryl, thank you so much for that incredible message. I love that you were the kickoff speaker for this session because not only did you wake us up, the chat has been active and going during your presentation. I know it's inspired a lot of people. So you've woken up the chat, but you've also given us a really good wake up call. I have a lot of similarities in my story. I was a go-getter, goal setter, overachiever, and burnout hit me hard. I got to the point where I was told my symptoms could be fatal. So I didn't know if I was going to live or die. And I can confirm everything that you've talked about. I love what you said about the standard American diet, where the standard American diet can make us sad, but you obviously have shown the power of mind, body, spirit connection. When we take care of our bodies, it affects our minds. You talked about the clarity, getting past brain fog. All the different impacts that it can have. Talked
And
about the
your body is
emotional.
constantly replacing cells. What kind of building supplies do you want? Do you want that crappy poison food, or do you want real gorgeous essential nutrients and phytonutrients that will allow you to rebuild new cells that are thriving and that will make you thrive? It's a huge difference, and you feel it pretty quickly. I forgot to mention, I am 77, and I feel better than I did in my 50s. It is so worth it to do this. I really encourage all of you to give it a try, and you start to feel it within the first 30 days when you get rid of sugar and chemicals from your life. You will notice that you're a whole new person. It's really worth it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wholeheartedly agree. And again, as you go through this session today, as you're listening, there will be so many different inspiring messages, inspiring talks, and we can learn a lot and get stuck in our heads, but the impact comes when we apply one thing, one simple thing. And Cheryl's mentioned a couple of different things. Again, you can go to her website and get access to those free resources that she mentioned. But my encouragement is to take one thing that you learned from Cheryl today and implement it today. Action is where transformation takes place. So, Cheryl, thank you so much. I appreciate your being here and look forward to continuing to learn more about your work and what you do.
Thank you.
And
I'm
so
thrilled to be here.
appreciate
And
that.
do it one at a time and show yourself grace, because health and wellness is a journey. So let yourself go on the ride.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, we are going to move on to our next phenomenal speaker that we have in our lineup, who is Coach MJ Tolan. And when we are talking about leadership and resilience, Coach MJ is a force in the world of leadership and personal growth. He is an award winning author, a TEDx speaker, and an international keynote presenter. He has spent his career empowering leaders to rise with confidence and resilience. As the founder of the Carrington Speaker Agency and Publishing Group and the CEO of DoneForYouBook.com, Coach MJ has created a global platform that helps executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals become influential thought leaders. His innovative book to speak system has guided countless individuals to write their own books, establish authority, and to step boldly into the spotlight as paid keynote speakers. I am excited and honored to introduce to you Coach MJ Tolan.
Hello. Are we ready? The funniest thing just happened, and I'll tell you later. First of all, guys, thank you so much for being here. It's my honor and pleasure to present this little anecdote today I'm going to share with you. And it's all about telling your story, because everybody's got one. Now, one of the things I'd like to also put into this, even before we get going, is I want you to all remember the day that you went through something you had no idea you were going to get through it. In fact, you were wondering how you were going to make it until 5 o'clock. Whatever that was, it could have been a health issue, could have been a job issue, could have been something with somebody in your family, something that you went through that just seemed absolutely impossible, absolutely incredible, and then suddenly you made it through. That is a story. And what I'm going to share with you today is simply about how to take your stories and put them into a package whereby you can become a published author and a paid speaker. That's right. So you might have seen people before who've been published, and you might have seen them where they've gone through their life. They're standing on a stage. You're going, gosh, I could do that. Well, actually, you can. And there's nothing going to stop you except the information that you need. And that's what we're going to give you today. So at Carrington.agency, we have a team of coaches, writers, editors who are there to extract your story from you and give you the opportunity to tell it in a compelling way where it can become a published chapter in an anthology or a book. And from there, we then have a coaching program that helps you create a TEDx-like keynote so that you'll be prepared to be able to hit the stages and start cashing in on what you do. Now, if you're an executive and you're thinking, there's got to be more to this, I've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years or more, How could I level up? This is one of the ways you could do that. If you're retired and you're thinking, gosh, I have so much knowledge, information, and experience, why can't I do more with that? Well, that's going to give you an opportunity to cash in on that too. And if you're just a normal person on an everyday job, that doesn't mean you have to wait 20 years to do that. You might have a story. Who knows what it is? And people love stories. So that's what this is all about. And that's what Carrington.agency is going to help you do. So here's the methodology that we do. We first set an appointment with you so that we can get to know you and understand what it is your story is. If we feel there's going to be a fit, then we'll set you up on a scheduled protocol whereby session after session, which we can do virtually, we'll take you through and start extracting the story for you. And then once our editors and writers are ready and with you, we can then create that outline that really matches what you want to do. And from there, we start the program of being able to get you published and then have the coaching program to support you as a speaker. So can anybody do this? I'll tell you something. We always hear that people are more afraid of snakes than they are of public stages. And that's very, very true. There's not a speaker in the world, I don't think, that still doesn't get butterflies in their stomach. So we want to know for sure that when you come on to our program that you simply would like to have a change, that you'd like to have it. It does take a little bit of a courage anecdote measurement. So have a little shot of courage. Come on and let us find out what your story is, because everybody's got them. And if you've got loads, then you've got a ton of information that we can help to extract. So that's basically what we do. And once we got you on there, then we have another program where if you like the idea of speaking, we have our 25-year-old NGO called Time for Sharing has a program called Mission I'm Possible. And the Mission I'm Possible program is based on a story. And the story was that my wife and I were childless for 8 years. And finally, we found out we were going to have twins. And when that happened, we gave thanks. And we took 37 orphans to a zoo. We adopted and sponsored a kangaroo at the zoo. And we had all the children come down and we gave them a certificate that said they were now moms and dads of this kangaroo. It happened. And when it did, it was magic. And then my team liked it so much. I was the CEO of a company at that time. And my team liked it so much, and myself also, that we repeatedly did this. We did this a few times a year. And after about our second or third year, we go, gosh, we should really maybe turn this into a charity. So we did. Even though we weren't collecting money, we were collecting momentum. And we wanted people to know that we were raising awareness, that we were raising fun for kids, not funds. And at that time, we were operating in different countries in Europe and then the Middle East. And today, we're 25 years in doing this. We have 17,000 children we put through our Mission I'm Possible empowerment programs. And we're delighted to bring on any new speakers who want to speak up for kids that matter. And so they'll be given just a small percentage of their proceeds whenever they do one of their talks to our charity to help us sustain our program. We're now grown in India. Now we're in Philippines. We're in Poland. We're in the Netherlands, in the United States. We're reaching out to the UAE. We just did an event in Ghana. And anybody who's listening to this broadcast today, if you'd like to get involved, if you're already a speaker, please hit us up. If you already want to become a speaker, then definitely do that. And for sure, everybody has a story to tell, and everybody's worthy to be heard. And all we want to do is raise awareness for kids. So in the heart of all this, become a speaker, become a published author. How about helping some kids out in the process? Wouldn't that be cool? So that's what we're all about. We'd love to hear from you. I think they're dropping in some links in here. So it's all about getting in touch with us. Our program is called timeforsharing4.org. So you can find us there. That's the easiest way to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And again, if you think you're driving down the road, I've got a story. Let us hear about it. Let us help you get that thing published, and let us help you get on stage and tell it. And when you do, what if you can make a bunch of kids smile in the process? That's it for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And in talking about what you can do with your story, you had talked about those moments that we have where you feel like you're not going to get through it. You're not going to be able to do something. How do those moments, I call it my dark night. I had my dark night moment. When a leader has that, how would you recommend that they take their dark night and transform it into something that not only helps their resilience, but can help others become more resilient as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's so many different situations in my own career where I've been faced with that. Even, for example, I would just something just came to mind. I was doing a training event on the 27th floor of a building in Dubai. And while I was coaching some of the 3 people that I had special coaching for, I heard screaming going on in the office. I mean, blood curdling screaming. And I remained calm, and I looked at the people who were in front of me, and again, just told them to be calm, and the screaming continued. And then I looked out the window, and I saw the whole building shaking like this. So that meant there was an earthquake, and now panic stations were full on. And I knew there was no way to get out of the building, number one. There was no way that I was going to make it to any of the stairwells up to the elevators. So we just had to sit there and wait it out. And at the end of the day, Dale Carnegie was right. Imagine the very worst and then improve on it. So the very worst was we were goners. And if we were, we had nothing to worry about. And if we were going to make it, well, we were going to make it. So I'm just bringing you to that one particular situation where I can remember, and I'm simply going to say the same fundamentals are true. Take a breath. Look at it like, what's the worst that could possibly happen, and then see a way to improve it. If you are on a flight and the plane gets turbulence and suddenly the stewardess starts throwing up, you're in trouble because we're going down. But if she's calm and she looks at you and you see she looks at you like nothing's wrong, you're going to be a lot more calm. And that's what leaders need to do. They are the face, they are the barometer, they are the weather vane. And when people feel their kindness and when they feel their calmness, that in itself will really influence the attitude and the altitude of everyone involved.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think that's one of the big reasons when we talk about the need for leadership resilience in our modern age. We are going through a time of, I would say, unprecedented change, but when we went from the agricultural age to the industrial age, there were changes that happened in society then. And now we're going from the industrial age where things have been focused on outcomes and products, where now we're moving into an AI digital era where things are fast paced, fast changing, and a lot of people are scared. Our lizard brains are trained to fear change, right? And yet, change is where growth happens, it's where opportunity happens. And you talked about how leaders really set the tone and set the stage for how those they lead are going to take things, having that resilience, that confidence, and being able to share that through their stories.
And
It's
there's
really
what you just
powerful.
said is true. It's all about change is going to happen whether we like it or not. So you can either resist it at your peril or embrace it, and embrace it kindly and embrace it gently, but embrace it to the point where you know for sure that if you're on your game, you can take that bear and turn it right around and make it work for you. And that's the key to leadership today. Companies are calling us and they're saying, can you come talk to our people about AI? Because they're all afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. Well, we get it. And, I have a new book going to be released the first part of next year just about that particular thing, because we know for sure that fear is going to make a lot more impact on people than logic. And we're all emotional creatures, and we have mortgages. We don't want to lose our jobs, right? So this is a legitimate thing. But in every single pathway, in every single example of any industrial revolution, for example, what if you were the person who was making buggy whips back in the days when Henry Ford came out with a horseless carriage? I mean, you would understand why people tried to burn down, or did burn down his factory, because they were so afraid of change. I myself, this is not such a big one, but I was one of the late adopters of a computer. So we have a secretary that does all that. No. So we know for sure that there's pushback, but these things are too. I look at AI right now like a horse. Think of it like a horse. Back in the day when a village was just sitting around, they were sitting around the campfire, 20 of them, and then suddenly this big animal from the forest came in, breathing the nostrils, and the frost was coming out of his nose and making noise. And then, what is that thing? And it scared them to death. But when they began to understand what that animal was, they were able to harness it. They were able to use it. They were able to ride on its back and go faster and farther. So I think that's what AI can do for us. It's a tool. And if leaders can embrace that as a tool, or any other threat to their norm day, and get into really making headway going forward, then they're going to really thrive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And so I look forward to seeing your book when it comes out shortly. And I love the emphasis that's been given again to finding a voice, giving a message, which is so much the passion behind Global Speakers Talk, which is giving everyone, and as you said, everyone has a story to share. Everyone has something that can benefit others. And I think it's important to say, as we talk about leadership, also, it's not just about leadership in business. You can be a parent, you can be a community leader. Leadership applies to more than just bottom lines. And as we step into those stories and we share those stories, again, whether it's through Global Speakers Talk, as you mentioned, people can reach out to you, find a place to find their voice, to share their message. We inspire and lift each other and help inspire and lift the next generation who are going to come in and take all these tools and take us to the next level. So thank you so much for your message. Thank you so much for your energy. And it has been great to have you here.
Thank you, Kimberly. Blessings.
Yes. So we are going to move to our next speaker, who is Loren Norris, who is raring and ready to go. He has spoken on the topics of faith, family, and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, the Congo, the United Kingdom, and all over the USA to crowds anywhere from 14 to 40,000. He's an international leadership speaker. He's a trainer and coach. He's the author of Learn to Roar Leadership, Learn to Roar Communication, Attitude Hack, and Live a More Excellent Life. He received the 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award, and he was a founding partner of the John Maxwell team. He has lists and lists of accolades and experience that he can bring to the table. And I am excited to introduce Loren Norris to the Global Speakers Talk stage.
Good morning. So excited to be a part of this. Oh. Was that the greatest silent film you've ever seen, or what? Yeah, there are a lot of people that wish they could figure out how to make me be quiet, but that's a very unique way of doing it. I'm Loren Norris with Story Power Academy, and it is my honor to be here with you today just to share a few points and a few moments of what I know about leadership, resilience, and what I know about stories and the power that stories have. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I walked into the little boy's bathroom in the middle school, and I found my mother down on her knees, face buried in the urinal. And we were supposed to go to dinner that night, and I said, "Mom, what are you doing?" And she said, well, I have to finish this bathroom and the one in the West Wing and the one down the hall, and then we can go to dinner. I said, oh, well, why are you doing that? And she said, well, this is my job. I said, yeah, but why are you doing that? And she said, son, you know, I dropped out of high school. This is the best I'll ever do. And I said, no, Mom, I just got my first promotion in the Air Force. My sister graduated valedictorian from high school, top 5 in her class from Baylor University. There's no chance that we have succeeded where we have, and this is the best you can do. I'm not willing to believe that. I think it's a story you've been telling yourself. It's a lie. You keep telling yourself and you keep believing it. Well, the Air Force sent me off to Honduras for the next 6 months. And while I was in Honduras, I get a phone call. And this phone call is from my aunt. My aunt says, now, let me just say this. My aunt never called me at work before that moment. Never called me at work after that moment. But on this day, I'm 3,000 miles from home in a foreign nation. And I get a phone call from my aunt. And she says, that conversation you had with your mom broke her heart. And I was like, don't tell me my mom's in trouble and I'm too far away to do anything about it. I can't even get home to say goodbye. This is horrible. And she said, oh, hold on. Your mom told me about that story and told me what it felt like when you told her that's a lie you've chosen to believe. And so we both together decided we're going back to school to get our GEDs. And I was like, yes, she's going to give it another go. And then my aunt said, I got my GED, but the adult education teacher told your mom, I'm not going to give you your GED. I was like, what do you mean you're not going to give it to her? She said, no, he told her grades were so good that if she'd press forward and get her high school diploma instead of her GED, he would try to help get her scholarships to go to college. And if she would get her teacher's certificate, he would work with the superintendent to try to take all of her years as a lunch lady and all of her years as a janitor and bridge those toward her teacher's retirement. The same month she turned 50, my mother, a single mom, divorced, then widowed, raising 3 kids on her own. The same month she turned 50, she graduated from Mary Hardin Baylor University with her degree in teaching and an undergrad in psychology. And I think the other one was either English or sociology. But she studied to show herself approved, worthy of a career that lit her up. She went from the school janitor to a school teacher, working with the kids that the school had already given up on. She took over eventually as the leader of the Challenger High School in our ISD. She spent the next 15 years helping these kids who had been given up on by the school district, that had given up on themselves because the story in their head says, I can't do it. One of those young ladies at 15 years old wandered into the principal's office and they're like, you have missed way too much school. You're pregnant now. Her mom and dad were dealing with drug issues and all kinds of other stuff. And the school basically wrote her off and said, you're done. You're out. You're too truant. You're pregnant. This isn't going to work. Well, 2 years later, one of her parents is in jail and the other one's gone. And she comes back to the school. She says, I want to get my education. And they're like, no, we wrote you off 2 years ago. She said, yeah, but in Texas, we have compulsory attendance laws. And until I'm 18, you have a legal obligation to educate me. And the school was like, no, they had 1,000 excuses. We don't have a classroom that you can be in with the baby. We don't have childcare for the baby. We don't have any way for you to do this, to take care of the baby and get an education. And my little 5'2" mother stood up in the back and went, Challenger High School has a really big classroom and she can bring the baby with the bassinet and I'll take care of the baby while she's doing her schoolwork. That young lady went on with scholarships to become the director of nursing at Georgetown. Why? Because my mother rewrote her story. Now here I am, 30 years past that moment that my mother and I had that confrontation. 30 years later, my job is helping people tell better stories better. And I'm not just talking about what they say on the platform. I'm not just talking about what they might write in a book or what they might answer on a podcast. Yeah, all of those are important. The ability to promote yourself, to build your business. I love the way Grant Cardone says it. Best known beats best every time. If you can't articulate why your ideas are good, they're not going to be expected and they're not going to be accepted by anybody. You've got to have the ability to articulate your ideas. Now, what does this have to do with leadership resilience? If you had asked my mother the day before we had that confrontation, Are you a leader? She would have said, no, I'm a janitor. Let me ask you this question. What do you think you are? Are you a leader? Do you have the resilience to charge into a moment like that and say, I'm going to tell a different story about myself? The challenge we have as leaders, especially in today's age, whether it's an identity crisis or it's a social political crisis or it's a mental health crisis, our ability to say, that's not me. That's a mistake I made. That's a decision I made. Maybe it wasn't the best one, but that's not me. I'm different than that. Our ability to look inside and tell a different story is absolutely critical. So I'm going to give you 3 really simple steps to be able to do that. Here's your first step. Your very first step in rewriting the stories of your life isn't just to look at them and go, this is what happened, but to ask yourself from positional awareness. Dr. Caroline Leaf talks about stepping outside of the moment and rewriting that moment by selecting the story that we're going to focus on. Now, this might be a moment in time. It might be a relationship. It might be as the boss that day that you went, I had to fire everybody. I recently had a coaching client who was a CEO of an organization. And in our first 30 days that we worked together, every time we got on a call, he would tell me about an issue with this person and an issue with that person and an issue at home and an issue at work, issues with clients, issues with salespeople. And the irony to me was he didn't see that the story he told about his wife and the story he told about his employees, whether they were the contractors, the logistics guys, the salespeople, every story seemed to be the same. And I thought back to a day that I read in a John Maxwell book. If Bob has a problem with Sue and Bob has a problem with Bill and Bob has a problem with Nancy, Bob's the problem. And when I called him on it and I said, listen, Mr. CEO, it seems to me that the consistency between all of these relationships that have gone south is the story you tell in your head about how they are responsible for all these mistakes. And yet the consistency is you. Or maybe you've heard the phrase, wherever you go, there you are. True story. And if the attitude in you, driven by the stories you tell yourself, is what causes the friction in your company, causes the stress in your mind, builds up that blood pressure, that heart disease, that high level of cholesterol, drives your insulin out of whack, all those things that are happening in your physical body, many of them are driven by your mind. And many of what's driven by your mind, many of those conditions driven by your mind are driven by the stories you're telling yourself. Now, you've got to stop for a moment and select those stories. In fact, there's an ancient religious text that says, take every thought captive. Now, I'm going to challenge you when that story starts to replay in your head, well, I can't accomplish that because of my past. Well, I can't accomplish that because I don't have that level of education. I can't do that. I wasn't made to be rich. My life is a mess because I'm a victim of X, Y, and Z. You can go through the whole list of the things that you've been a victim to. And if you choose to repeat the story of your victimhood, the world will let you have it. The minute you take that thought captive and go, I'm not living like this anymore. Trust me, I was a 25-year addict. 25 years, nearly ruined my marriage. But 10 years in, I made the commitment to change that story. I was an addict. I am not an addict. And the minute that story began to change in me and I began to take every thought captive, when those ideas came back toward that addiction, I said, no, I'm not thinking about that. I got better things to think about. I'm not thinking about how I need to pay these bills. I'm thinking about how do I need to generate more revenue. Not, I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? These are stories that play over and over in our head. If we've ever had to fire someone, if we've ever been fired from a job, if we've ever lost a relationship that meant a loss to us, now whether that's lost to death or broken up, that's a whole different set of solutions on the other side. But the story you tell in your head will change your life. At Story Power Academy, selecting stories is, from the profit side, from the ability to project your future and generate revenue side, is about crafting the stories that resonate with the crowd around you, so that the solutions that you found to the pain that you lived through becomes a solution for them as well. Oh, you've got to tell the right kind of story. You've got to tell a story that makes sense to them, that resonates with them, that has the proper content and the proper context, that demonstrates your credibility and your credential. The story MJ just told us about being in the building when the earthquake started and responding to other people who had already begun to freak out. They're already telling themselves the story. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. You got to stop that story. You've got to take that thought captive. You've got to begin to tell yourself a different story. Part of what we do in Story Power Academy is exactly that. We're going to work with you through all the stories of your life. Every book doesn't need the entire monologue. Every speech on the platform, every podcast doesn't want to hear your entire life story from the day you were born to yesterday. What they want to know is, have you encountered the same problems I've encountered and found a solution to them? You know that your story is effective. The story you've selected to tell, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, you know that story is effective when they first say, wow, your story really moved me. Secondly, when they say, your story is just like my story, and so much that they feel compelled to tell you their story. But the real win, the third win, the triple win is when all of that is true. When like, wow, your story really moved me. My story is just like your story. However, you have a solution that I never found, and I'm going to take action on that solution. Now you know you've selected a story, you've qualified that story, and you've crafted that story in a way that people who need help come to that story and they go, that's the moment I was looking for. That's the solution I was trying to find. I had a client who contacted me and said, I'm really having a hard time not talking too long when I'm on the platform. I said, okay, well, what is it that you do and how do you think I might be able to help? It took 9 hours, 9 hours for her to tell me her whole story about who she is, what she does, and why she does it. We worked together for several months, and she had told me, my challenge is every time I get on the stage, I feel like I have to tell all of that again. And nobody, wants to sit for 9 hours. I mean, raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Nobody wants to sit for 9 hours just to hear that same story. But when she would do fundraising events, they would go 45, 90, an hour and a half, 2 hours, because she felt like she had to tell the whole story. After a few months of working together, instead of a 2-hour presentation with a $30,000 fundraising campaign, she had a 45-minute presentation with a $130,000 campaign. In September of this year, she's begun to master the art of the 2-minute story, which is the thing that we really drive home in Story Power Academy. Learn to select the stories so you don't have to tell all of them. Tell the ones that are poignant to the audience that's in front of you, that make the point you want to make, that drive them to action. And in her presentation in September, she gave several 2 to 3 minute snippets throughout the course of the night, other speakers on the stage, other entertainers and performers on the stage, and that event raised over $300,000. Yes, she 10x'd her fundraising by cutting down the amount of time it takes to get the point across. And I can tell you as a leader, as a communicator, that's going to be true of you. Now, let me take this back to leadership resilience one more time. If you've ever worked in a place where you realize that your attitude as the leader is more contagious than the common cold, when you walk in the door and everybody in the room begins to take on the same attitude you came in with, if you had trouble getting out of the house, if you had trouble getting in the car, maybe your Starbucks order was wrong. Maybe the lid wasn't on and you spilled coffee in your lap on the way to work. Maybe you pulled into your parking place and some yahoo jumped in your spot just before you got in it, and then the rain started. And now everything in your life is a mess, and you're walking in the door to your office, your coworkers, your executive assistant, and you just got this on your face. Zig Ziglar said in an interview one time, he asked a woman, do you ever sometimes wake up grumpy? She said, no, I let him sleep. He was really talking about her grumpy. But see, when you walk through your workplace like that, especially when you're the leader, your influence over everybody in the room comes from your emotional set. We heard Cheryl talk about that. The ability to generate electricity from your body is beyond your control. But what you can control is the attitude that you carry. Well, what is an attitude? It's a thought plus an emotion What you think about how you feel, and how you feel about what you think, that's your attitude. And when you're thinking my day is a mess already and you feel bad because that's true, when you walk into the office, you take that with you and it splashes all over everybody around you. You ever seen a color run? People take off from the starting line in a nice white t-shirt. By the time they get to the first section, the first leg of the race, people are throwing chalk at them out of a particular color. At the next leg, another color. At the next leg, another color. That's like an attitude. And when you get to the end of the race, you're soaked in sweat and covered with 15 different colors of chalk. You look like a rainbow, or a bag of Skittles have been melted in your pocket. Everybody's attitude is going to get on you. The leader's ability to change the story in their head, to take that thought captive and go, I don't want to think about that because I don't want to feel like that. I need to choose another thought, and then I need to express it from my mouth. That might be a 30-second story. But when you walk into your office, close the door, stay in there until lunchtime, and then come back out and you turn to your assistant and you go, hey, can you schedule me an appointment with that person? Let me tell you what you just did. Your attitude, the stories you've been telling inside your head, the way that those stories make you feel have just generated a seed. When you went in, you probably threw a handful of dandelions on the desk of your assistant. And at noon, you're coming back going, hey, I need some roses. That's not the seed you planted. You threw a bad attitude all over everybody when you came in. Now you're coming back looking for them to give you a good attitude. If you're the leader, your resilience determines the mood of the office. Let me give you another word for that. Corporate culture. If you're the leader, you're responsible for corporate culture. And if you think for a moment that the stories in your head are not relevant, you, my friend, are wrong. I want to challenge you to consider the stories that you tell, to take a step back for a moment and ask yourself, could I change that story and change somebody else's life? If there's something you're interested in, you can join us at storypoweracademy.com. We've got a new 6 weeks course starting in January, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. But at a minimum, take a moment, select the stories that you're telling, craft those stories, and then deliver them in a way that other people can also change their mood, change their attitude, and change their life.
Thank you so much for that powerful presentation. And another discussion, I think people may start noticing a trend that story is so crucial to effective leadership and leadership resilience, not just the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell others, but it creates a powerful tool for how we engage with the world and how we engage with each other. And so one of the things that I would love to do, I'm going to put you on the spot because you didn't know this was coming, but with your experience, I think you can handle it. I would love for you to give an example. So let's say that there's a leader. I love that you talked about corporate culture and how the leaders are responsible for the culture that they create. Effective business leaders, entrepreneurs have said that time and time again, that the buck stops here. Right? If there's a culture issue, if there's a lot of issues going on within an organization, or as a mom within my family, right? You got to look at the leadership as the core of that. So let's say that you've got a leader who's got some, team dynamics going on. That's one of the things that I hear a lot in businesses right now is a lack of respect and a lack of civility in the workplace. I think especially with social media and things, we've gotten in an age of, snarkiness and sarcasm that's kind of infused into these relationships that create some interesting dynamics. So you've got a leader going in trying to, deal with a team that's not really cohesive. They're frustrated. The leader's frustrated. How do you go through these steps of selecting a story, crafting a story, and delivering it in a way that translates into changing that work culture?
So we actually have a program, an entire program for leadership called Attitude Hack. And the program starts with, let's look at some of the common phrases in your office. And there's about 35 phrases that people hear all the time. It might be things like, well, it is what it is. It's going to be whatever it's going to be. Or maybe you've heard this one. If they gave me a pay raise, then I would do that job. Or that is not in my job description. The one that boggles my mind right now, and I have millennials in my home and I have millennials in my community, and I hear not my pleasure, but of course. There's something in the psychology that says, of course, when you say thank you. And I'm not sure that I fully understand what that is. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But here's what I do know. When you look at those common phrases, how often have you heard, as an example, hey, I think I could do a better job at that. Will you give me a chance to do it again? That's not a common thing. But the attitude that I call excellence kind of drives that home. Well, in the same way that Chick-fil-A changed the nomenclature, the response to say, my pleasure, all of a sudden the attitude changes, the entire atmosphere changes, the culture changes. Now, the real question is, and this is a segment of the process of the story power process that I call lead the narrative. And that leading the narrative is saying, these are the phrases that I think our organization should repeat on a regular basis. And so in Attitude Hack, we've broken down 10 top attitudes, 5 negative ones, 5 positive ones. The attitude of appreciation, for an example, wouldn't say, good job, bro. It might say, wow, I love the way you took the extra time to take care of that customer. That means so much to our organization. And whether they give a 5-star review or not, I want you to know I noticed. That seems like, well, not really a story. No, it is absolutely a story. I think the shortest verse in the Bible, if you're a Bible reader, is 2 words. That's a story. Jesus wept. That's the whole story. But if you think about everything that went into that moment, the ability to say to someone, thank you, that's easy. Thank you for, and then being clear about what that is. So in the Attitude Hack program, we walk people through that and say, what is the culture you want to create? What are those core attitudes that you want to shape within your business? And what are the things that you would need to hear on a regular basis? Here's a clue. As a leadership team, start saying them. What happens is people repeat them. And as they repeat them, they begin to believe them. I can tell you, because we've done the corporate Christmas party for one particular Chick-fil-A store for 9 years. And when you see those people off campus, out of uniform, not at the store, they still use the phrase, my pleasure. It is deep inside their soul at this moment. They've said it for so many years. It becomes a habit after 21 days. If we could change the attitude of every workplace, every public arena, every schoolroom by simply introducing phrases that look up and benefit people rather than victimizing them, I think we'd be way ahead. Does that help?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I totally agree with that. Donald Miller, who created StoryBrand, talked about how it took 2 years to create that culture, but it was just the constant reinforcement, and it's changed the entire brand. And so
Absolutely.
I think, when we talk about bringing that to our corporate culture, to our family culture, and building our personal brand, which to me is more than just building a business. To me, building a personal brand is how we consistently show up for life. And it's the culture of our lives, and the stories that we tell ourselves are absolutely foundational for that.
If I may
So
add to
thank
that,
you.
if I may add to what you said about personal brand, I spent 10 years in corporate America in the marketing brand communication department of a Fortune 50 company. And I always heard talk about it's the color scheme, it's the logo. In fact, I was the brand police. If the red in your logo was the wrong color, my job was to hunt you down and say, stop using that. But what I found as I've moved on in my own business is that our brand is what people say about us when we walk out of the room. If I'm present and people honor me, that's awesome. If I'm not present and they're like, oh my gosh, what a blowhard, or oh, I can't even stand, I hate when that guy comes around. That's my brand, whether I like it or not. Here's the other thing that I found though. Most people, when you ask them for a testimonial, they're like, well, just type up something you'd like me to say and I'll say it. And I thought, well, why wait until they ask me to type it up for them? Why don't I begin in our relationship teaching them the stories that I want them to say about themselves and about me when we're done? Why don't I build my personal brand in their own dialogue as I build a relationship with them? One that they'll look back and say, I'll never forget him. He made a positive impact in my life. I am so grateful that I spent time with him. I'm going to do that actively, but I'm also going to speak that. Look, I just want to know that at the end of our time together, that you feel like what I've done has made your life better. That's my brand statement. That's what I want you to repeat 5 years from now, 25 years from now. But I've got to believe it and then live it out to back it up. So I think we have the right and we have the responsibility as leaders to influence people by seeding them both with the attitude that they should have and the brand that we want them to remember.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your wisdom and your expertise. It's been phenomenal. So now we are going to move to our next speaker, who is Tanya Diamond. She is an autistic polymath, a Tantra lineage holder, and a world-class business and life strategist with 45 years of elite expertise. She has a 99% success rate in healing trauma and has transformed over 100,000 lives across 60 countries. She's a 2-time TEDx speaker, a 12-time #1 best-selling author, and 2024 Best Speaker Coach. She has guided leaders on the world's biggest stages, including 700,000 participants in a live audience in India. And I particularly love Tanya Diamond. She was a speaker coach on my TEDx stage, and I am beyond happy to introduce her to the Global Speakers Talk Live stage.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hello, hello. I'm going to turn the time over to you. You're amazing.
Wow, that's crazy cool. I'm so excited to be here. It's awesome that Kimberly is hosting this. What a delight. It is Dark 100 where I am hanging out right now, and excited to be with all of you. Hopefully you're not at Dark 100 and you're like actually awake. So it's interesting to me to do a talk on resiliency and leadership, and also to think about what most people talk about when they're getting business coaching or they're watching business leaders or anything like that. The majority of things that people talk about in the business world is mindset. It's how to, change your mindset, how to use systems. What I do is something that's really different, because I believe that we bypass some of the most deep foundational things that if we don't do, we can throw all of the tools and all of the cool stuff on top of it and never actually get there. Now, I know I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16. I'm 64 years old, been around, and I know that what's really, really gotten me there, first of all, to be in business since I was 16 and be 64, resiliency, 100%. We need resilience. But resilience, what does it mean? It means the ability to fail and get up again, the ability to crash and burn and get up again. But how do you do that if you don't have some deep foundational knowledge about yourself? I don't like to have to do things over and over again. So in other words, I think when, Kimberly was saying that I have 99% results with people that I work with in healing trauma, those are business people, a lot of them. And so what does trauma or healing have to do with business and leadership and resilience? Everything. Almost all of us have had some nervous system dysregulation. You hear about it all day long today, vagus nerve, things like that. You don't hear it often in business. But I find that if somebody has a glass ceiling, like they're having problems selling, or they're having problems hitting over 100,000, or they're having problems with leading a team, or they're having problems getting promoted, or they're having problems, anything related to a challenge, typically starts with who you are inside, what platform your nervous system and your thoughts and everything are. But if we only try to change our thoughts, it's not going to work. because just changing our thoughts or just talking about it doesn't change the whole system. So years ago, I really did a deep dive into what does it take to really be a full human that feels so resilient, so badass, so amazing that nothing can stop you, right? Okay. Now, we also hear a lot about self-love, right? Self-love, self-love, self-love. I think everybody that's a great leader knows how to love themselves, but none of us really talk about how to do that. So let's take a moment of a deep dive into why I think the 3 pillars to self-love is what every leader, business person, entrepreneur, and actually every human on the planet needs to know and have to be able to build their best life. You can't lead from a place of brokenness. You can't lead your family, your work, anything. Just doesn't happen. So when we figure out where it is that we are shaky, we can do something about it. Okay, so here we go. The problem that most people have these days is that lack of self-love. But what is self-love? It's not a bubble bath. It's actually the ability to really feel confident, trusting, and respectful of yourself. The 3 pillars below self-love, why self-love is so hard to attain, is we're liars. This is going to shock you. We're all liars. We spend all day long lying to ourselves in our head. 250 times at least, it's thousands of times, but let's just say 250 times a day, you lie to yourself. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm not going to eat that muffin. This time when I talk to so-and-so, I'm going to be this way. All the time, lying, 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 lying. Now, so what do we think about liars? Nobody likes a liar. Nobody respects a liar. Nobody wants to love a liar. So if we are lying to ourselves all day long, trust me, your subconscious mind is tracking the fact that you are a liar. You may have a moment where you're like, I just don't believe that. Okay, just track it though. I want you to know how many times you said you're going to get up without hitting the snooze or not eat that muffin or go to the gym at 6 or work out or not yell at your kid or whatever it is. I guarantee you it's a lot. Lots of research backs this up. Okay, so at the bottom line, if you're a liar, you have no self-trust. You have no self-respect. You definitely are not going to love yourself. We are just encoded to distrust, disrespect, and not love liars. That's what society tells us. Liars are unsavory characters. You can't trust them. So how do we get over that? Well, first of all, we've got to go down to the bottom pillar, which literally is self-commitment. The majority of us break our commitments to ourselves. Maybe you're really good at keeping your commitment to other people, like you have accountability buddies, so you go to the gym. But self-commitments, that's what that lying is all about. When you say you're going to get up at 6 and you don't, you lack self-commitment, so you can't build self-trust. When you say that you are going to not eat the sugar and you do it, yeah. So while you erode your self-trust by a lack of self-commitment, you don't have a solid foundation in which to lead. And you certainly are not going to be as resilient as you could be. Now, look, you could be really successful in one area or 2 areas, but keep falling down in other areas. I think success needs across the board. It means in your relationships. It means with your money. It means in your business. It means with your friendships, parenting, across the board, across the board. Okay, self-commitment is pillar 1. We need to build self-commitment. Self-commitment leads to self-trust. Self-trust leads to self-respect. Once you have self-commitment, self-trust, and self-respect, you automatically fall in love with yourself. You don't have to try to love yourself. You're a lovable person. Who doesn't love somebody who's got commitment and trust and respect is respectful? We all do. And this is going to be so much easier than you believe, because where we all start then is something really small. The way to build self-commitment is not to take on huge things. The way to build self-commitment is to actually tack on very, very small 30-day challenges that you know you're going to succeed at to start with. You can get bigger, bolder later. But for instance, if you were to add 10 calf raises to while you were brushing your teeth, and you did them for 30 days in a row, and I mean not missed one day, 30 days in a row. And if at day 29 you forget it, you start all the way back to day 1, because that self-commitment is important. Next month, kick that in the butt, and then next month do something a little bit harder. But the main thing is to pick something super, super small that you can actually succeed at, because we follow success. When you keep setting yourself up for failure by keep saying things like, I'm going to work out 3 days a week, and then you don't, and you keep saying it, but you don't, and it's been years. I'm going to lose 10 pounds, and then you don't, and it's been years. You are eroding the foundational core of your belief system about yourself. You do not know how to lead yourself. You do not know how to have resilience. You cannot be as effective if you don't get that foundation under you. So, self-commitment builds self-trust, builds self-respect, builds self-love. When you have those ingredients, you don't second guess yourself. You show up in a way that's powerful and people respect and they see, because you're already loving and respecting in that yourself. Yeah, absolutely. People vibe on that. They see that, they feel it. Absolutely. Their nervous system will sync up with yours. The thing that we don't talk about mostly in leadership or resilience or anything in business is your chemistry. Your chemistry, your vibe, how you feel inside projects out faster than anything you will ever say. Faster. Your stability, your foundation is what is speaking to everybody else. It's shouting out loud to everybody else. So when you come in on a shaky foundation because you don't trust yourself, other people do not want to trust you either. Bottom line, nor will you trust anybody, because if you don't trust yourself, you're certainly not going to trust anybody else. So I think this is the foundational piece that doesn't get addressed, talked about, or taught enough when it comes to leadership. You have to be able to lead yourself. So please think about this. Go ahead and find one thing, one step that you can do, one tiny moment that you're able to start doing something that builds that resilience of self-commitment, and do it every single day. Do not get lofty. Every time you want to do something huge, don't do it. Do something small. Eventually, as every 30 day turns around, and you do this every 30 days for the rest of your life, because you'll build that self-trust. And here's the other secret. Take a pen and a piece of paper and pen, not your computer. And I want you to spend a few days, little chunks of time for a few days, maybe a weekend, writing down all the lies you tell to yourself, all those shoulds in your head, every single thing you've ever had in your head. I'm going to learn piano. It's been years you haven't. Write it down. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Write it down. I'm going to stop drinking caffeine. Write it down. Everything you say but have not done. And it's a list in your head. It's taking up so many resources that's insane. First of all, real estate in your head is valuable. That's a lot of crap up there. Write it all down. Keep writing. Now you've got your piece of paper. I did a TEDx talk on this. You got your piece of paper out. I want you to look at all these things that you wrote down. Now you may agree that they should be done. You may agree that losing that 10 pounds would be awesome, but it's been on your list for 5 years. It's time to just scratch it off. So I want you to scratch every single one of those things you wrote off the list. You're like, Tanya, are you kidding me? But it's important for my health. It's important for my business. It's important for that. I get you, but you're not doing it. So stop lying to yourself. Just scratch them off. Scratch them off, and then pick that one thing. Like I said, that one thing success. 10 calf raises every day. First of all, if you don't know how badass calf raises are, 10 calf raises is incredible for your whole health. Your calves have a lot to do with your blood sugar and your health and everything else. So you pick something solid like that. Do it. That was a workout today. Stop making things so impossible to do in your busy life and make them doable so that you get success. You could do 10 push-ups off the counter while you're waiting for your coffee. Anyway, write down all the stuff that's in your head that isn't happening, that's not happening. Do not have a to-do list on your computer or somewhere that's miles long that you're never going to get to. You're just going to feel crappy about yourself. That's how to build crappy feelings, not self-love. Scratch them all off. Now, take one at a time when you come back to doing something. Take one thing at a time to add to your to-do list, not 100 things, okay? Self-commitment builds self-trust, builds self-respect, builds self-love. Leadership starts with you. If you cannot lead yourself, it's very difficult to lead other people. You're always going to crash and burn. I have no idea how long I've been talking because I did not look at the clock. Is Kimberly going to come in and save me when I'm supposed to shut up?
I'm here. Hello. I have to say it is really fun to introduce you to a stage. I've been introduced by Tanya a few times before, and it is really fun. And there are so many nuggets in there. The chat was lighting up during your talk, and I think it is so timely that this is coming up right before the new year, when it's the time that is historically known for resolutions. And as most of us know, by February, most of those resolutions are unmet. And so, you know, in talking about putting things on the to-don't list, going through and crossing off those things and starting with one simple thing at a time is so important in building those habits. And I like the idea that you gave to, you know, every 30 days reset, you know, instead of just a New Year's resolution, it's every month. We can have a small workable solution. And if you did that every month for a year, how much self-trust, how much self-confidence, self-mastery you would have developed in just a year is really powerful.
Well, you know, if you trust yourself, and most people don't, they say they do, but really, if I go find out, I can prove that most people do not. And that lack of self-trust will really, really keep you stuck in so many, all of the affirmations, all the other business things to be a good leader, stacked on top of lack of self-trust, doesn't go so well. So I think we work on our personal foundations. And when we're, like I said, when we're full of that in a good way, that self-respect and that self-commitment and that, we're not second guessing. We're walking into a boardroom and literally owning that boardroom because our nervous system is so solid that everybody else's nervous system responds to that. That's what we don't understand. We're chemical animals. And the leader is the person whose nervous system, either A, the leader is somebody who's too aggressive and they're leading by fear, right? In which case nobody wants to be around them very much. Or your nervous system is so stable and so solid that everybody wants to be with you. They want to be that. That is what I consider true leadership, because it's not leading by fear. It's not leading by domination. It's not leading in a way that makes people nervous. You know, nothing's worse than showing up and having to be nervous about your boss or being nervous about your clients or being nervous to get on a sales call or just to be nervous in general. So regulating ourselves like that, it's gold.
Oh, yeah. And I think that goes back to what Loren Norris was talking about also, where leaders, whether, you know, again, whether it's a parent, a leader of a community, a leader of an event, right? But the leaders really do set the tone and set the stage of everything that comes into play. And when you have that self-regulation, when you have that self-confidence and self-love, you're able to let everyone else feel comfortable coming into that environment and showing up. And just before we move on to the next speaker, I do just want to say one more thing. I know a little bit more about you just because we have known each other for a few years now. And I will say, you know, when we're talking about leadership and resilience, I have to say Tanya Diamond is an example of resilience. Neither of us have had the easiest life paths, and we have had to navigate a lot of challenges. And so for those individuals who are listening right now who think, oh yeah, well, but you had it easy. Oh, well, yeah, but it's, you know, that's easy to say that you can just do one little thing and it will make a difference. I know, you know, both you and I have been through our fair share of things. What would you say to that person who's thinking, well, yeah, you can do it. It was easy for you, but you know, for me, I've got more to overcome. What advice would you give to that person?
Well, I've cured 4 incurable illnesses, if that gives you any indication of the fact that I've been through some stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is nothing special about me in the sense of I have that superpower. And if I do have a superpower, it's because I just did exactly what I told you all to do. So any client I have, no matter whether they're working with sex, business, doesn't matter, multi-million-dollar, scaling, I start everybody here. This is literally the foundation of everything, because this is what's broken for most everybody. So it really does. We know that one cent, that compounding interest thing that we always hear about, right? Well, this is compounding interest in building your foundation of yourself. And it does start small. If you start too big, you won't succeed. And the problem is, every time you do something that you don't succeed in, you have less self-trust. So make it so epically small, epically small that you can't fail the first 30 days. Really, really. Then you can just keep adding as you gain. And you know what? Every once in a while, you might make it to 28 days or 15 days and forget. You start again. And that builds that self-commitment, right? So it's not necessarily about getting it perfect every 30 days. It's about the fact that when you mess up and nobody else is looking, you start at day one again.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the concept of taking epic small steps to building an epic life. That really is how it's created. And I love that things are blowing up for you and so successful right now.
I'm going to be in Morocco 3 days from now, leaving for Morocco.
And it's just evidence that what you're talking about is true, right?
Yeah.
Just those small, simple, epic steps lead to epic success. And so grateful to have you on this stage and to have you here and the nuggets that you were able to share with us.
It's been awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the people listening. You guys got this. You have this. One small step.
Yes. And I love that. It's a perfect transition into our next speaker, who is Catherine Manzewitsch, who empowers women over 50 to rediscover their purpose and live life with intention. There is no expiration date on greatness. As a faith-led speaker, coach, and pastor with 40 years of experience, she guides women through life transitions, helping them rebuild their confidence and step boldly into their
Well, hello, Kimberly. How are you this morning? Can you hear me? Are we good? Miss Kimberly, you can hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. Well, hello to everybody from wherever you are. And I'm going to share my story with you this morning because I think it's very relevant to Resilience Chapter. I was sitting at a red light and I was staring outside the windshield on a beautiful sunny day. And I was just thanking God for such an awesome day. I live in a place where there's a lot of sunshine, and it was a beautiful, clear day. And I just loved it. And I thought, what an awesome day. And then, bam, out of nowhere, I am 6 lanes across the traffic. And I had no idea that in 30 seconds, I was going to go from thanking God for an awesome day to losing 3 years of my life. That was totally devastating. One side of my body completely was numb. I could feel nothing. After surgeries and therapies and lawsuits, I had money spent. I had emotion spent. I had time spent. And I hated. I know, it's a strong word. We all do sometimes. But I hated the woman who was texting and driving and hit me at over 50 miles an hour. And honestly, I just wanted my life back. I didn't think it was too much to ask. I just wanted my life back. Now, I can tell you eventually God he worked all that out. But here's the most important part. It wasn't just the surgery that the doctors did. It wasn't just getting the feeling back in my body. It was what happened to my heart in the midst of that situation. It was so callous and so hardened towards her. Maybe you've heard the scripture in Ezekiel that says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And honestly, that's the surgery that I really needed at that time. I was so angry and I just wanted to get even with somebody. And then I realized that the same God who put the sun in the sky that day, that gorgeous day, and he paid a price for me. He paid the same price for the woman that wrecked my life for 3 years. And God finally said, you know what? Why don't you let me take care of her so that you can get on with your life? You know, letting go takes courage, and resilience is deciding that your future matters more than your pain. And I found that there's something about just sticking to it. Oh, there were days that I thought I can't hurt anymore and go on like this. God, just take me to heaven already. And maybe you felt that way. You felt like you were ready to check out and give out because the pain was too much. But if there's a little bit of hope in you that the God of the universe knows and cares about you, you need to believe that of all the things that have gone wrong in your life, he is bigger than that. And he is completely in control. How many of you have been in that moment where you thought it cannot get any better? Life, I'm just rocking life right now. Everything is going good. And seconds later, it couldn't be any worse. If you've been there, you understand the need for resilience in your life. Have you ever felt angry or lost? Have you ever felt like everything you built just slipped through your fingers? That's exactly where I was standing that day. Broken body, confused mind, and heavy heart. Trying so hard to hold myself together on the outside while falling apart on the inside. But true resilience, kingdom resilience, is more than recovery. It's transformation. It's not bouncing back. It's building forward. It's allowing pain to be repurposed, not wasted. When I forgave, I stopped letting the accident define my identity. I stopped letting bitterness tell my story. Because here's the truth. If you let what people think about you and say about you define what you do, you will never move into the next level that God has for you. That's what God was showing me that day. I wasn't just angry at the woman who hit me. I was feeding the wrong voice up here in my head. Forgiveness was me standing up, pushing back the chair and saying, you don't get to sit here anymore. Leadership resilience isn't about never falling apart. It's about learning who you will be when you do. It's about mastering the inner table. It's a space where your faith, your focus, and your emotions live. So ask yourself, who's sitting at your table right now? What voices have you been entertaining? Fear, shame, offense, or the voice of the shepherd? Forgiveness is not an excuse. It does not excuse what happened. It just stops what happened from defining you. It's not about forgetting. It's about freeing. It's how you claim your seat and you remember exactly who's at the head of your table. Resilience begins right there, not sitting in strategy meetings or success metrics. It begins in the quiet decision to no longer let what broke you control you. It begins when you choose peace over pride, healing over hate, and freedom over offense, because the table is sacred and it's yours. That's where God meets you, not after the battle, but right in the middle of it. And I experienced it firsthand in physical therapy, a lot of physical therapy. But trying to lift my hand and my arm after surgery, oh, that was not funny. It hurt and it burned, and I wanted to give up. But just like in leadership, the pain wasn't the enemy. It was the signal that healing was happening. Each rep that I did was a small victory that restored confidence in my ability to move my arm again. That's when I began to lead from a place of clarity, from confidence, from a place of peace. And suddenly I realized that table, that's mine. I just have to keep putting in the work. I want to leave you today with 3 lessons from my story. Number 1, forgiveness is freedom, my friend. How many times in leadership have we had people that have hurt us or betrayed us, and we're holding on to that grudge? But they're like heavy weights in leadership when you hold on to them. They block clarity. They block innovation. Leaders who forgive reduce cortisol and improve decision making. You will be a better leader if you just let it go. And at the end of the day, one exercise you can do is reflect on one grudge or a lingering irritation that happened that day. And ask yourself, do you want this controlling my decisions tomorrow? If not, let it go. Holding on to resentment is like trying to drive a car with the emergency brake on. You will never reach full speed or full potential. Does that make sense? Number 2, resilience is built in the presence of pressure, my friend. It doesn't come any other way. True leaders don't just survive adversity. They use it as fuel for growth. After a setback, you can identify one lesson or one opportunity in the failure and write it down. If you don't write it down, it's the same as if it didn't happen. The brain tends to focus on the solutions instead of the problems. A business pivot often comes from a moment of pressure. In fact, most of the times it does. Resilience allows you to respond instead of react. Number 3, you control who sits at your table. Your mindset and self-talk shape how you lead others. Your resilience dies where your resentment lives. Resilience is not built in the absence of pressure. It's built in the presence of it. There's a scripture in Psalm 23 that says that God has prepared a table for us in the middle of, in the presence of our enemies. The table is set. At that table, there's freedom, there's peace, there's healing, there's hope, there's provision, there's clarity, there's wisdom, there's strength. And all of it is there ready for you. But only you get to decide who gets a seat at that table. Don't give the enemy a seat at your table. The enemy doesn't need to destroy your table. He just needs to join the conversation that's going on in your head. He doesn't take away your calling. He only has to shape how you see yourself in it. And he does it through thoughts, through lies. We were just talking about lies. They're talking through lies, through bitterness, through unforgiveness. And when you sit with resentment, you replay the wound over and over again, and you allow the offense to settle. You handed him a seat and a microphone. And before you know it, your peace is gone, your clarity fades, and your leadership loses power. Toxic thoughts or enemy voices in your head weaken your leadership. Here's an actionable trick for you. Create a table check daily, identifying the voices in your head. Are they fear-based or faith-based? Replace the toxic ones with empowering ones. It's all about what you talk to yourself about. Just like in a boardroom, the wrong people that dominate the conversation at the table are the ones that make the company suffer. Protect your mental boardroom the same way. And remember, the table, it's yours. Don't give the enemy a seat at your table. Lead from your place of peace, of your purpose, and your power. As leaders, God has called us to step into that role. And leadership resilience is about continuously being mindful of who is sitting at our table, what thoughts we dominate, what we do, because the speed of the leader is the speed of the game. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for that powerful presentation. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't realize how much of an impact even small resentments. You talked about your accident. I'm a divorcee and a certified divorce recovery coach. And so resentment and forgiveness is a topic that comes up a lot. And I've been asked multiple times, how have you gotten to a place of forgiveness with your ex? How do you live in that, when they hear more about my story? And I love the point that you made, that forgiveness is freedom. I have absolutely found that it is not so much about my relationship with the other person or what happened. It's about reconnecting my relationship with myself and my faith. And, letting go does take courage. And so it doesn't have to be a big thing like a divorce or an accident, but even those small resentments, that annoying coworker, resentments that your kids aren't picking up their socks, or worse, I'm raising teenagers now, right? But those little resentments really do take so much of our energy and our focus that can be productive. And so there were so many mic drop moments in that talk. If you want to share yours in the chat, for those who are listening, share your favorite mic drop moment. But there were so many of those. But I would say, as far as the benefit, as far as what you've seen in helping people move through forgiveness and moving into their next phase of life, you've talked about transitions. What would you say are the biggest rewards you've seen, both from yourself and those you've worked with?
I think mindset shift is huge. Like Tanya was saying, we lie to ourselves all day long, and that is the truth. And so I think that many times we believe things that aren't factual, but we believe them to be factual. For example, if we forgive them, we are excusing their behavior. So we don't want to forgive them, because then we feel like we're giving them permission to do that again to us, or that we're saying, it's okay that you did that to me. But it actually is the reverse. It's freeing and it's liberating. It's saying, I don't excuse your behavior. I don't approve of your behavior, but I am not going to allow your behavior to dictate who I am and who I become. And when you come to the place of really accepting that you're not setting them free, you're setting you free, then it's a game changer, because you're like, I don't want to live this way. Who wants to live with an angry person? No one. Who wants to live with a bitter person? No one. So you're doing yourself a favor if you can just forgive them and move on. I did not say it was easy. I said it took courage. But if we are going to be in a place of leadership, we cannot bring baggage with us. Our people are trusting us that we have been there, done that, and have that t-shirt and can take them forward to their new place and their new identity and who they are, not get stuck with them.
Oh, I love that. And it is such a powerful point. And Tanya had said in her talk also, when you get to that foundational core, when you get to these core principles, that's where you find where some of the things that we tend to focus on. Why am I struggling with relationships at work? Or why am I struggling with these different things? It actually is really surprising when you get to the root core of it. When you liberate yourself to be who you are and you know who you are, right, you can show up in a way that changes the entire corporate culture, as Loren Norris talked about, right? Creating a culture in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces. So thank you so much for sharing that.
And thank you so much for having me.
All right. Okay, we are going to move on to our next speaker, who is Jerry Rosenl. He is the founder of Champion Mentorship, a leadership and communication consultant company dedicated to helping entrepreneurs, businesses, and teams unlock their full potential. As the best-selling author of Don't Let Doubt Take You Out, Jerry inspires growth-minded leaders to rise with confidence, overcoming limiting beliefs, and to achieve extraordinary results. With over 2 decades of speaking, coaching, and training experience, he equips organizations to build stronger cultures, improve communication, and elevate performance. Known for his high energy and engaging style, Jerry has impacted audiences worldwide, empowering them to lead with clarity, courage, and resilience. I'm excited to welcome Jerry to the stage.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Man, I haven't seen some of those pictures in a while. That was kind of epic to see some of those. So thank you, Angie, for that little opening. Before I get started, I just want to just say what a great morning this has been. I just want to say congrats to all the speakers that have come before me. Man, I've been taking notes from everybody. Just great stuff that we're learning. I hope you're really just focused in and paying attention this morning. And to Kimberly, I just want to say what a great job you're doing hosting this event. So good, kudos to you, my friend. And I'm just honored to be part of this today. And I just have a message of encouragement that I really want to share with all of you today. And what I'm going to talk about today in the time that I have is something that every single leader faces, and that is pressure. Pressure in our businesses, in our families, in our finances, pressure in the expectations that people have of us. And if we're really, truly honest with ourselves, sometimes you look around the room and you think to yourself, why does it feel like I'm the only one dealing with this mess? Right? Y'all understand what I'm talking about? We all get there. Why am I the only one dealing with this? Yet in essence, we're really not. And the truth of the matter that I've learned over my years is this. Leaders are forged, they're shaped, and they're strengthened under pressure, not away from it. And so today, what I want to share with you is the resilient mindset, how to thrive under pressure as a leader. And I want to give you 3 powerful takeaways that I've shared with people all over the world that I believe is going to help you rise, lead, and thrive as a leader, no matter what is pressing on you right this moment. And so I just want to dive right into this so we can have time to get through all the things I want to share with you. And so here's the first takeaway that I want to teach you today. Pressure does not break a leader, it reveals one. And I want you all to hear this loud and clear. Pressure does not create weakness. What it does is it exposes what's already inside, and it pulls the potential we have to the surface many times that you didn't even realize that you had. You know, when everything as a leader is calm, when everything is just going smoothly, anybody can look like a leader. Anybody can smile. Anybody can look confident. Anybody can talk a good game when everything's smooth sailing and everything's calm. But when the pressure hits, that's when your character gets revealed. Your habits get exposed and your mindset gets tested. You know, I look at pressure sometimes as like a giant spotlight. It shows you what's strong, and it also shows you what needs to grow. You know, James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4 says this: the testing of your faith produces perseverance. See, pressure produces something. It develops something. It refines something. And leaders who thrive, they're leaders who see pressure not as a threat, but as a training. See, you don't say, well, why is this happening to me? Leaders turn around and say, what is this moment revealing in me? And here's the mindset shift. When pressure shows up, and it will, learn not to panic, pause. Don't react, reflect. And don't crumble, grow. Because pressure isn't here to break you. Pressure is here to actually build you. Takeaway number 2 I want to share with you is this: resilient leaders don't react, they reset. And man, I can tell you from experience, this is one that I've really had to work on. Because here's the thing about resilient leaders: they don't let pressure dictate their emotional state. They reset before they respond. And oh man, I know that everyone listening can relate to this. Because most people, what we do in the natural sense is we react out of fear, stress, anger, overwhelm, and then we regret what we said or how we handle things. Have you ever done that? Have you ever sent a text because someone agitated you? And then once you hit send, you wish that you could just go into the virtual world, grab that message before it hits the other person's phone and bring it back? Have you ever done that? Because if you haven't, what are you doing? I've done that way too many times. And you just go, man, I shouldn't have done that, because you responded and not reacted. Leaders, on the other hand, they basically operate with intentionality. See, leaders understand this, that emotions are contagious. And as a leader, you are the thermostat in any room you're in. If you walk into a room all flustered, bent out of shape, looks like you just had the worst day of your life, well, the whole team is going to feel that. Everyone around you is going to feel that. And if you walk in the room steady and calm and confident, the whole room takes a breath. Because, my friends, 93% of communicating is nonverbal, of which 55% of that is your body language. So your body language speaks before words ever come out of your mouth. Come on, somebody. Resilience is not pretending that the pressure that you're dealing with isn't real. It's learning how you reset yourself when you're under pressure. Man, I mean, we all have incredible stories to share. We all heard many of them so far. And I've got a bazillion stories of pressure and things I've had to overcome. But one of the things that I've learned is I created my own 3R formula. For any time you're dealing with pressure, this has helped me so many times. And the 3 R's are very simple: recognize, reframe, and refocus. So anytime there's pressure coming on, number one is recognize the pressure you're under. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend it's not there. Just recognize it. The second R is reframe, which is reframe the story that you're telling yourself in your mind. Shift that focus by changing that story. And then the third thing is refocus on the things you can control, not on the things you can't control. So many times the reason we sit in a pit of pressure is because we're trying to do things that are just out of our control. Focus on the things you can control, because that's how you get out. Recognize, reframe, and refocus whenever you feel that pressure coming on. You know, there were years ago that I was preparing for a really big talk, really big message that I had coming up, and my schedule was so packed, and I was so completely overwhelmed, and everything inside my body was screaming, "You can't do this right now. You've got too much on your plate." What in the world were you thinking? You ever been in that place? I'm sure you have. But then I stopped and I took a breath and I said, "Jerry, you teach this stuff every day. Reset. Reset." And so I shifted the question that was going on in my head. Instead of me saying, "Why is this happening?" I shifted the question to, "How is this preparing me?" And instantly, my mindset changed. So if you need to build a reset habit, just take 2 minutes before the meeting that you're going to walk into. Just take 2 minutes before you're going to have a hard conversation with somebody. Just take 2 minutes before you step out on that stage. 2 minutes to breathe, to pray, and to just realign yourself. Because, my friends, if you don't reset yourself, I promise you, the pressure that you feel will reset you. Woo, come on now. Takeaway number 3 is this: strength isn't the absence of struggle, it's the mastery of it. See, resilient leaders, the resilient mindset understands this. The goal is not to avoid the struggle. The goal is to learn how to master it. Struggle is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're stretching. See, think about the challenges that you've been through in your life. We've heard from some of the great speakers before me of their challenges. And one of the things that I always tell people as a pastor is that look where you are. You're still here. You're still standing, which means you have overcome challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge in your life. You are an overcomer. That's why you're still here. And so if you've overcome all those challenges before, why do you believe that you won't overcome this one? See, things that used to overwhelm you, now you learn how to handle them with confidence because of the struggles that you've been through. Why? Because you grew. Because of those challenges, your capacity expanded, your resilience deepened. In 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8 through 9, it describes it perfectly. It says, "We are hard pressed on every side, but we're not crushed. Pressed, but not crushed. Shaken, but not destroyed. tested, but we haven't been taken out. See, leaders who thrive under pressure, leaders who have that resilient mindset, don't see struggle as a setback. They see it as strength training. It's what builds our strength. It's what gets us prepared for that next level, because every challenge that we face, every pressure that comes against us in our life, doesn't mean we like it and we want to go through it, but no matter what comes against us, it's preparation to help take us to the next level. So let me give you a simple exercise. Very simple. You can do this right now. I want you to fill in this blank. This pressure I'm currently dealing with is preparing me for blank. This pressure I'm currently dealing with, this challenge I'm currently dealing with is preparing me for blank. And you get to define what that blank is. Because strength, my friends, grows in the struggle. Resilience grows in the resistance. And greatness grows in the grind. That grind of just showing up. Keep on keeping on. Keep doing what needs to be done. Keep moving forward despite what's going on. The grind is not always fun, but the grind is part of what develops your resilience as a leader. You know, years from now, no one is going to remember the pressure, the challenges, the obstacles that you were under. They won't remember the stress, the deadlines, any of those things. But let me tell you what they are going to remember. They are going to remember how you showed up. They're going to remember your steadiness. They're going to remember your courage. They're going to remember your leadership. Because I can tell you, as part of my journey in life, I have learned this. Pressure passes. If the Bible says it this way, this too shall pass. Moments fade, but the impact of a resilient leader is what lasts. So lead in a way that when this season is over, or any season of difficulty or challenge is over, lead in a way that you can look back and say to yourself, that season didn't break me. That season is what built me. And that, my friends, is the mindset of a resilient leader. So thank you so much for allowing me to share. I hope that that brought some value to those of you that are listening on your journey to becoming a resilient leader. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jerry, for all of those nuggets that you shared with us in that talk. And you came on with such a spirit of generosity and openness and just gave so much in that talk. So I appreciate that very well. I think between you, Catherine, and I, we've got two pastors, and then I was a religion teacher for 16 years before my dark night transformation. Like the three of us could probably just chat for hours, but we don't have that much time. One of the things, there were so many mic drop moments in that. And so I'm hoping that people are taking notes and really letting these takeaways sink in. But I love your number one takeaway where you talked about how pressure reveals who we are. And I found that in my own life also. I thought I knew who I was, and then life had a way of opening my understanding to discover that there was a little bit more to me than I thought there was initially. And I think it goes back to what Tanya was talking about too, that self-love, self-awareness, when we really know who we are at our core, not just defining ourselves by what we do or our accomplishments, but when we know who we are, a lot of that is revealed in those pressure moments and those pressure times that we go through. And so in talking to someone who's going through this, I know, when I was going through my own challenges, people would come and say things like, "Oh, this too shall pass." I'm like, yeah, like a kidney stone. I mean, maybe it will, but it's going to hurt on its way out. I didn't always take that feedback in a spirit of gratitude. So for someone who really is going through it right now, it may be, a business owner who's looking at having to lay off some employees with the economy or with where things are going, or someone who maybe experienced a layoff or a job transition, or personal crises, right? What, advice or what nugget would you give them where you'd let them know that this isn't just warm fuzzies, right? This isn't just go get 'em tiger motivational speech.
Right.
In that moment with the empathy and compassion that I can tell that you have, those who've walked through it, you can feel it in the way people talk. What would you say to that person who is just at a breaking point and struggling to see the light right now in what you shared?
Yeah, I that is such a great question. And one of the things that I try and do, I try to encourage people and inspire people. But it's not just about motivation, it's about action. And I never minimize, I never try to minimize the challenges that people are going through. We're not saying that, oh my God, you just snap your fingers and it's gone. But I mean, I've been through some difficult times in my business, like many other business people have. And what I learned is that there are many times that things happen in our business that we just can't control. And so I try to focus on controlling the things that I can, and not focusing on the things I can't control. And when you have a business, like you said, people that have to laying off people, that's hurt. That's hard. People had to do that during COVID. They had to lay off all sorts of people. And you think to yourself, well, how am I going to get beyond this? And how am I going to get past this? And how's my business going to ever grow? I always tell business owners, listen, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter how bad it is, it's never over until you choose that it's over. So don't have the mindset, and don't let that thought in that, well, what if this doesn't work? And hey, who knows if it'll work? But all I know is that if we focus on what isn't going to work, how it's going to fail, and I'm never going to make it, you're going to give energy to something you do not want. And I've been in the place where my business has been hanging by a thread. And my dad used to always tell me, well, you might be hanging by a thread, just don't let go of the thread. And so I always teach business owners, listen, we're not, downsizing we're not minimizing what you're going through, but you do have, nobody has taken your ability to choose how you're going to focus on the situation. Nobody's robbed your ability. The economy did not take your ability to think. The government did not take your ability to think. You choose, how am I going to focus? Is it easy? Of course not. If it was easy, we wouldn't be business people. Entrepreneurship is tough. Business is tough. But you have to choose, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to through this? Years ago, and this will be real fast, when I was in a place that I was literally about to lose everything I had for no fault of my own, stuff happened in my business on the outer side of it that had nothing to do with me. But it affected me to the fact that I was going to lose my house, I was going to lose my cars, I was going to lose everything that I had. And I remember sitting in my office crying, praying to God, what is going on? What am I going to do here? And I'll never forget what I felt He put in my spirit. And this changed everything for me. And this could help somebody listening right now that's in that same place. And this is what I felt He told me. He said, Jerry, you have a choice right in this moment. You either will be overcome by the challenges you're facing, or you will overcome the challenges that you're facing. The choice is yours. And that changed everything for me, because I realized I couldn't control a lot of this, but I could control the fact that these challenges will not overtake me. I am going to overtake these challenges. And I just got up And I just started going through, what can I do first? What can I do now? What can I do to change things? And one step in front of the other, I didn't lose anything. I actually rebuilt myself bigger and better than I was when I was in that moment. It's all about your mindset and what you focus on.
Yeah, I love that. I've experienced that also, and I honestly feel like there is somebody listening to this today who needed to hear that inspiration and needed that hope to take one more
Yep.
step to move
Yep.
forward, one more day. You and I have both been there, and we know the
Yes, we
difference that
have.
can make. So thank you so much for being here, and
You're
thank you for
welcome.
sharing that.
Thank you, my friend. I
And
appreciate you.
oh, I love it. I love it. I love being here today, and I'm learning so much from all of you. And we get the opportunity to learn from our next speaker as well, a beautiful human being. Tom LeNoble is an executive leader, an international speaker, a resilience coach, and a philanthropist. His career spans 14 500 giants, Palm, Facebook, Walmart, Meta, all these different companies, as well as high growth startups, including Support Space, iPrint, and Speed Date. As CEO of the Academy for Coaching Excellence and a leadership coach with the Miller Center at Santa Clara University, he trains and mentors leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. He's a sought after speaker and author, and he shares transformative insights on leadership, empowerment, and resilience. Having overcome life threatening illness, he lives by his conviction: I'm still here. And I am excited to turn the time over to
Hi, Kimberly. How are you today? It's so good to see you.
I'm doing so well, and I am so excited that the audience has the treat in store for them that I know is coming. So I'm excited to have
Thank
you
you
here.
so much. I was going to say good morning to everyone, but I realize it's not morning for everyone. In fact, I envision our wonderful Anshu as we end this beautiful conference that's been going on here this month. I suspect she might sleep for a week, and then again, it's Anshu, so she's probably already on to the next venture she's working on. And Anshu, we appreciate you so much. So I want to talk with you today. Every person you meet holds an opportunity to open a pathway, and when you open it, lives change. You're here today not just to listen, but to awaken something within yourself. The part of you that already knows this truth. Leadership is not about control. Leadership is about courage. This summit isn't just a gathering of professionals, titles, or accomplishments. It's a moment of remembering. Because leadership resilience is not built when everything goes right. It's revealed when everything goes wrong. That's when character shows up. That's when courage takes the lead. That's when who you are matters more than what you know. In a world that feels increasingly uncertain, complex, and demanding, the leaders who rise are not the ones with all the answers. They are the ones with the capacity to hold pressure without collapsing in themselves or in others. For today's talk, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not speaking about leadership and coaching as two separate ideas. I'm speaking about leadership through coaching. Because in today's world, you cannot be an effective leader without understanding what it means to be an effective coach. You see, coaching is no longer a soft skill. It's a leadership discipline. When you coach, you give more than strategy. You give presence. And presence is the rarest currency in leadership today. As leaders, when we coach, we offer our people 3 essential things. Our voice, which is the permission to be heard without fear. Voice is not about speaking louder. It's about creating psychological safety. When leaders invite voice, they make it safe for people to tell the truth, to challenge ideas, and to share insights without worrying about consequence. People do not disengage because they lack talent. They disengage because they stop feeling heard. Then there's vision, which is clarity beyond today's constraints. Vision is not a slogan or a slide deck. It's the ability to help people see beyond the immediate pressure and connect their work to something meaningful. When leaders provide vision, uncertainty becomes direction and fear gains purpose. Then there's validation, which is the reminder of wholeness. Validation is not praise or performance management. It is the recognition that people are not broken, they are becoming. When leaders validate effort, growth, and humanity, they restore dignity and build resilience that lasts. Because you see, coaching does not fix people. Coaching frees people. And free people lead better, create better, and contribute more fully. Every leader in this room has walked through fear. Some of you are carrying the pressure of responsibility. Some of you are holding organizations together through uncertainty. Some are even questioning what comes next. Some are even looking at the beginning of stepping into the path as a leader. You know, my own journey into resilience began in a very personal way at a time when I was leading a very large customer service organization in a fast-paced, successful enterprise. I was told not once, but 3 times that I had 6 months to live. That kind of news doesn't just test your resilience, it defines it. It strips away your illusion of control. It silences the noise of ego. And it asks the question every leader must eventually answer. Who am I when everything falls apart? Leadership is not forged in comfort. It is shaped in moments when you are forced to choose who you will become. What I chose, I kept leading. When I began coaching in the late 90s, you know, it wasn't even an industry yet. It was kind of an act of faith. If you said you were a coach, they thought you were, you know, with the softball team or the soccer team after work. There were no playbooks, no certifications, not even global summits like this one. And look where we are now. Coaching has become the heartbeat of human development, the language of transformation across industries, cultures, and as we are today, continents. It is now an $18 billion with a B dollar industry each year. Why? Because resilience is now recognized as a core leadership competency. not the ability to push harder, not the ability to endure endlessly, but the ability to adapt, recover, and realign with purpose. Resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward, wiser, clearer, more aligned, and growing from the experience. Resilience isn't toughness. It's tenderness that refuses to quit. This is the foundation of the work I do through frameworks like the riskability factor and ResiLeader, where I help leaders transform their risk into renewal and adversity into alignment. You see, leaders who will shape the future are not fearless. They are resiliently human. Every leader I've coached, regardless of title, influence, or success, stands in the same place between fear and courage. You see, that is the space where leadership resilient lives. That's where coaching does its quiet magic, not by eliminating fear, but holding fear in one hand and possibility in the other until something new emerges. That's how transformation happens. Not through force, through awareness, not through answers, through better questions. I want to offer you 5 gifts in this season of giving, principles I see consistently in resilient leaders around the world. 1, presence, the gift of being seen. In a distracted world, presence is revolutionary. When leaders slow down, people remember they matter. Presence builds trust faster than any strategy. Number 2, curiosity, the gift of possibility. Resilient leaders ask more than they tell. A single, well-timed question can reopen a closed heart, a stalled team, or a stuck organization. Curiosity turns problems into doorways to be opened. Number 3, courage, the gift of risk. True leadership lives at the edge of uncertainty. Courage is not bravado. It is the willingness. It is being willing to move forward without guarantees. And number 4, the gift of hope. Every storm you survive becomes light for someone else. Your resilience gives others permission to keep going, because you see, leadership is contagious. You're not a leader unless you've developed the next leader who can develop the next leader. And number 5, renewal, which is the gift of energy. You cannot lead from an empty vessel. Renewal is not indulgence, it is responsibility. Burned out leaders do not change the world. Renewed leaders do. Now, you may be an individual contributor, a manager, a coach, a founder, or even a CEO. You might even be someone just getting started on the path. But today, you are a student of resilience. You are here to remember, leadership isn't about when things go right. It's about who we become when they go wrong. I was given 6 months to live 3 times. Today, I live with metastatic cancer for the last 13 years. And yet, I'm still here. I'm still leading and coaching. Not because life has been easy, but because purpose kept calling me to lead and coach. Each of you carries that same calling to rise stronger, to lead deeper, and to live clearer. You do not need to become someone else to lead powerfully. You are the pathway. You are the possibility. And together, we are the proof that resilience doesn't just help you survive. It helps you thrive under pressure. Every storm you rise from becomes someone else's shelter. Always know every storm runs out of rain. In fact, behind that storm all along, the sun was shining, just like any storm you may be experiencing. Storms bring lots of rain. They create fertile ground. The storms in our life do the same things. I ask you, what will you plant? Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your leadership. Now let's together lead the world forward. Act of courage at a time. I'm grateful to be with you today. I wish you the happiest holiday season ahead. May it be fun, joyous, and memorable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tom, for being here. I don't know that everyone can fully appreciate what it means to have a pioneer in the coaching industry here, and what it was like in those early days. I wasn't coaching in the early days, but I know that there were perceptions, and it was definitely a challenge of moving forward. And so I am so grateful that our audience has been able to hear from you and gain from your wisdom and expertise, and so grateful that you're still here, that you are here with us and able to share with us.
Thank
And
you.
I think everything that you talked about with moving into a coaching mindset, I do love that it is a recognized, needed skill. It's something that's actually put into leadership applications now, that people are looking for some kind of coaching or mentoring experience. And living in a day and age where we have the most diverse workforce that we have ever had. We have 6 generations in the workforce, which is unprecedented. And with being in a digital age where so much of what we do is on a global scale, it's not just in our local communities anymore. I think this concept of coaching and mentoring as leaders is so essential. And so if you were going to give, one, piece of advice or one illustration of what it looks like to mentor and to coach instead of to manage employees or to manage your children or to try to manage others, give us an example of what that simple shift looks like. How would you
Yeah, I
approach someone?
love this question, because the coaching industry, of course, has exploded. In fact, one of my biggest concerns in the competitive landscape is some of the things that are being created that are kind of shortcuts and not really coaching, which really inspires and helps focus on a change versus a quick fix. But I think that what I see today is so many people are focused on what happened. It's as if there's going to be a do-over. Like in life, we can press the rewind button and start backwards. Or like on our phone when we're watching a video, when it says, go back 10 seconds, like we can do that. That's not how life works. What happened is what happened. If you can learn something from it, great. And what happens is when leaders bring what happened to them into the space, we become poor listeners. We're thinking of how we're responding or what it meant to us instead of listening. Here's the deal. Whoever's speaking and thinks you're listening knows you're not listening. It also brings things into the space that you miss the cues of what's going on with the person that you're leading or coaching because you're bringing your stuff into the space. The other thing I find that's really important is there is a definite, definitive line between coaching and when you need a professional, for example, a therapist. Be sure that when you're looking at coaching, whether you're being a coach, seeking a coach, learning about coaching, that you learn about this, because we as coaches can do damage doing things we're not capable of doing. And again, it often happens. Somebody brings something about a relationship or the death of somebody they love. And because we've had an experience, we think we know. That's not what coaching is about. Coaching is about, for me, something I call in my practice, the haystack method. You know how people say it's like finding a needle in a haystack? Well, I think the needle is your answer, and I think you have your answer. My job as a coach is to hold the space to clear away the hay so you can see your answer.
Oh, I love that. And I've found also, especially like you said, the coaching industry is booming now. And because it's an unregulated industry, right? Like, you can wake up and say, I'm a coach today. The best coaches I know are the ones who understand the difference between the modalities of coaching and counseling or coaching and therapy, and when those are needed, especially when we talk about wellness and resilience and things like that. So, and I also
Absolutely.
know that you have a new book
I
that is coming
do.
out. Would you mind sharing that with the
It's
audience before
out.
we move on?
You
Yeah.
are so kind to bring that up. My book is titled My Life in Business Suits, Hospital Gowns, and High Heels. And if you want to know about the high heels, go buy the book. But it's a memoir that crosses over into self-help. And the purpose of the book is to help us realize that who we are today is the summation of who we've been in our life. Even though some of those chapters we want to keep private, they may be outrageous, we might even feel shame for them, or that people just won't understand. But indeed, without them, you wouldn't be who you are today. I'm proud to say that in 15 days, it became an Amazon #1 bestseller in the US and internationally. And I've been so excited. We had a launch party a week ago, Monday, and 90 people came, the media and everything. And all 3 characters showed up, which was a surprise to everyone there that certainly knew me or didn't know me at that point. But I think what I've heard from people, which has been really encouraging, is I can't put this down. I laughed, I cried, I did both at the same time. What means the most to me is the people that share with me how it inspired them. My life's work and purpose is to be an inspirator. An inspirator inspires others to take action to reach their goals and dreams. Thank you for bringing that up, Kimberly.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I am very excited to read it and look forward to the day I get to meet you in person and get my signed copies. So
I'd love
we will
to
do that. But thank you for being here. And speaking of powerhouse authors, we have our next speaker here as well, who is Jessica Gabriel. She is affectionately known as Gower Jess and is an inspiring American author, motivational speaker, and women's empowerment coach. She's passionate about guiding women on transformative journeys and helps them heal from their past, embrace their God-given identity, and step boldly into lives filled with purpose, faith, and victory. So I am excited to have Jessica Gabriel come to. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where people are in the world.
Absolutely.
Well, I am excited to have you here, and we will turn the time over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Kimberly. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And, I love everything that we just heard. He is such an incredible human being and has added so much value, not only to myself, but to the world. So thank you for that. And then also, before I jump in, I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to give a special thank you to Anshu and to you, Kimberly, because I know what all it takes to go into something so valuable and incredible as putting on not only this event, but all of the ones that came before this. And so I'm just really thankful for this opportunity. And thank you for that introduction. As she mentioned, my name is Jessica. Most people do know me as Gorgeous. And, this morning, I just want to keep it short and sweet because I understand how busy everybody is. And I chose to speak on the topic of thriving under pressure by putting on the mind of Christ. For those of you who may not know me, I'm a women's empowerment coach, and everything I do, from the speaking engagements to my workshops to my coaching, and even the books that I've written, everything is centered. It's very Holy Spirit led and Bible based, but it's centered on helping women by essentially putting on the mind of Christ, because everything is really centered on the way that you think. I noticed that in each of the speakers, and each of us really kind of touched on how the way that you think and your mindset truly has a lot to do with how you live your life, and giving you 3 ways to thrive under pressure by putting on the mind of Christ was something that was super important to me, because pressure has taught me that thriving doesn't come from controlling circumstances, but thriving really comes from being able to know and understand that you are more than a conqueror, and we know that because the word of the Lord says we are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ who loves us. And so the first thing that I want to touch base on, or the first, I would say, lesson, the first really technique that I can share with you is that when you're under pressure, just as many of the other speakers said, that's when we're really going to see who you truly are. That's when you're going to be able to truly either overcome or be overcome by everything. And so being able to really understand and apply these techniques to your life when you feel like your back is against the wall is really going to make a huge difference in your life. Because one thing that I can say is the pressure is never going to stop, but we all know that diamonds are created under pressure. So it's really how you choose to navigate through the storm and how you choose to push through. And for me, what that looks like is being able to turn to God, to turn to God, to turn to his word, and to put on the mind of Christ. And so I would say, for number one, when you find yourself under pressure, your back's against the wall, or you feel stuck, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to pause instead of panicking, because the word of the Lord says, be still and know that I am God. And that's Psalm 46:10. So for myself, I've learned to pause. I've learned in that pause to really anchor myself in the truth. And for me, what that looks like is praying. And just to give you a little bit of background about me so that I can put this more into context, I've got one heck of a testimony, and I won't really get too much into it, but I will say that I found myself in a situation just 3 years ago where I was under a lot of pressure. My back was against the wall. I felt like there was no way forward. I was in a toxic relationship. I was unfortunately abusing substances because I didn't know how to do just that, to navigate under the pressure. So here I am, toxic relationship, at the point where I essentially wanted to take my life. And that's what was going on the inside. The crazy thing is, on the outside, I looked like everything was just perfect. I was on camera, traveling the world, doing speaking engagements. And I wasn't a coach at the time, but I essentially had a business that allowed me to promote and help other women with their businesses and their brands. And I was also an MC. So, all in all, I found myself out on the outside looking like glamorous. Everything was lovely in my life. But on the inside, I was under pressure. I was breaking down. I was stuck. I was essentially in the darkest place of my life. And I didn't know how to move forward. And for those of you that know me, my testimony, you know that it was in that darkest moment that I cried out to God. And just like that, just like he says in his word, he saved me. And I was saved by grace through faith. And that is a gift that comes from God that is like no other. And it was in that dark moment of my life that I began to really draw near to God by reading his word. And we know that the word of God is also referred to as water. So as I read the word of God and I was washed by the water of the word, and I began to put on the mind of Christ, these were 3 key techniques that I learned to do under pressure that even today keep me going. I have a pretty hectic life even now, very busy, just like you. But the first thing I always do whenever I find myself in a tough situation is I pause instead of panicking. And as I mentioned, be still and know that I am God is one of the number 1 scriptures that I have written across my wall, because I know that whenever I am under pressure, instead of allowing myself to, get scared, because a lot of times we end up getting fearful and then our mind starts spiraling and then we start thinking worst case scenario. That's kind of like a human, reaction. We all know that when you're under pressure, when you're scared, when you've got a lot going on, the first thing we do is start fearing, and that'll really take you off track. So I've learned when I'm under pressure to slow down, to breathe, don't panic. And for me, what that looks like is even, in my everyday life, going into prayer. I can be at work, I have a pretty demanding position, both in my professional life and in my private life. And I find myself under pressure all the time. But now I understand that I am in control of that there's nothing and no one that can get me off track, because I'm very much centered and anchored by being able to pause and anchor myself. And in doing so, I know that God is in control. So I just begin to speak to God. I enter into his presence. I slow down. I pause and I pray. And that has really been transformative for me, instead of letting myself get crazy and get off track. And the second thing that I do when I'm under pressure, in order to begin to thrive instead of getting taken away, is I begin to replace truth with, I begin to replace fear with the truth. So again, not panicking, going into peace, into being anchored. And then, you start replacing that fear that you have with the truth. And again, going back to a time in my life when I found myself in the darkest time of my life, I learned that I am who God says I am. I am the head and not the tail. I am, as a believer, you are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You are a lender and not a borrower. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And you would be surprised when you begin to get in alignment with what God says about you, and you begin to replace that fear with the truth, then it truly begins not only to calm you, but it begins to center you, And the word of the Lord says, this is really again, with everything that I do being very Holy Spirit led and Bible based, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, do not be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because again, everything is centered on mindset. So when you're able to pause, not panic, and replace that fear with the truth, and really understanding that, as some of the speakers really spoke about as well before me today, really understanding that it's in that pressure that you're really that a lot of really amazing things happen, right? When you're under pressure makes diamonds. You really get to see who you are, but also it's a learning experience. You've got to get away from caring what people think and what people say and all of that. You know who you are. You're going to make mistakes. Things are not going to be perfect. To be honest, I know that I've spoken a million times and I don't even know that it's going to be evident here, because I feel like I've stumbled through some of this. But you know what? It's been a tough morning for me, but I showed up and I'm here and I'm telling you guys the truth and sharing my experience. And I know that even if I don't knock this thing out of the park, I've showed up this morning. I'm giving it my best shot. If only you knew what I went through before this, right? But that's exactly my point. You can thrive under pressure by slowing down, and instead of allowing the peace to overcome you and thinking of all the panic, you really want to replace all that fear with the truth. And, again, my favorite scripture in the Bible, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so being able to really center your mind on God and center your mind on the truth that you are more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ who loves you, really, even in your worst day, even when you feel tired or depleted, that fills you up, and that Holy Spirit boldness comes through, and you psych yourself up and you tell yourself the truth and you walk on that. You walk on the water of that word, and it really begins to replace those fear-driven thoughts with the truth, and it centers you so that you can pivot no matter what happens and keep going. And number 3, the last little treasure or bit of value that I want to add that you can really do when you find yourself under pressure is speak life. You know what I mean? Speak life, but speak it with authority. Believers know that the same Spirit that lifted Jesus from the grave lives in you. And so by the power of the Holy Spirit, when you find yourself under pressure, what you want to do is speak life with authority. We all know that in Proverbs 18:21, the word of God says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. And let me tell you, if God, who is the Spirit, spoke this world into existence, then we know that by the power of the Holy Spirit, we have the ability to speak our life into existence. So when you wake up every morning, declare what God says about you. Okay, you want to wake up, and I have my own personal affirmations all aligned with what God says about me. But the number one scripture that I speak in the morning is what I just said. I am the head and not the tail. I am above and not beneath. I am a lender and not a borrower. I even say, thank you, God, that the same mind that was in Christ Jesus now lives in me. Thank you, Lord, that your promises for me, for all your children, are a resounding yes and amen. Thank you, Lord, that your favor surrounds me like a shield. And there's so many more affirmations, and it's all the truth. It's all what God says about you. When you say what God says about you and you come into agreement with what God says, you begin to make heavenly things, earthly things through you. And you'd be surprised how being able to pause instead of panic, and then replace the fear with the truth, you'd be blown away with your ability to speak life with authority every day, how that peace then becomes power, and there is nothing and no one that will ever overcome you, because God is with you and God lives in you. You're in alignment with God, and there's nothing and no one that you can't, there's nothing that you cannot overcome, and that's my truth. And as a child of God, as a believer, that's the same truth that lies within you. Thank you guys so much for your time. I hope that I blessed you this morning.
You did me. And so I can only speak for me, but I know, looking at the comments as you were speaking, I know others were empowered and blessed by your message as well today. And it's one that I think applies to everyone. Talking about the power of the pause. I love that. And of connection to source. And really tapping into that is so important. I think it applies to everyone. And I think, well, I don't think, I know, and so do you as a women's empowerment coach, that it's something that women struggle with a lot. And I think because we tend to define ourselves in relationship, it is something that is collective. It's not just women or men, but speaking, collectively, right? Men tend to define themselves more by achievement, and things like that. And women really define ourselves more in relationship. And so we tend to worry about what everyone else thinks, if we're doing enough, and giving to everyone and getting caught up in that rat race. That I know a lot of women who feel guilty even taking a pause, and feeling selfish in that. And, what would you say to those women who are, but I just don't have time, right? I've got kids and I've got church and I've got work and I've got community, and we have so many people and so many things to give to, what advice would you give to them in really taking power in the pause?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, because that's such an important question. And whenever I do sit down with women and I do my coaching, that is the one thing that I make sure to spend a lot of time on, because you're right. We as women, we do tend to feel guilty whenever it comes to self-care or taking time for ourselves. And so my advice would be, and I had a mentor that shared this with me back when, that I'm laughing because back when I wanted to be a flight attendant, one of the things that she taught me was, if you're in the plane and it's going down, you want to make sure when those oxygen masks drop, you put that mask on first, because how can you help those around you if you cannot breathe? And that was very life-changing for me, because she's absolutely right. I used to feel guilty for taking time for myself. But now I understand that, God, in the word of God, the promised land used to be an actual place, but now it's a state of mind, and God did not create us to strive and be busy and be crazy. And what the word of the Lord is putting out right now is, those who dwell in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. And so God really wants you to actually not only take time for yourself before you can, refill your cup to be better for others, but he wants you in his presence and to spend time with you so that you can continue to be healthy in be healthy and thrive in every aspect of your life, so that you can go out there and share the good news, and you can go out there and be the best mom and daughter and sister, or even, brother, dad, whatever it is that you are. He wants you to be the best at it. And in order to do that, he wants you to take time for yourself, but he also wants you to take time for him and be in his presence, because there is nothing like being able to sit in the presence of God and allow him, the source, to truly fill you up so that you can go out there and pour into other people.
Oh, I love that. So beautifully said. And that's what I found too, right? When we're connected with ourselves, when we're connected with our higher power, when we've taken even just a few minutes to do that, is when we actually have more to give. Sometimes I do more when I'm slow than when I'm frantically running around doing everything. Because when when I slow down and give myself a moment to pause, is when I really get connected and reprioritize, right? And sometimes it's business is the priority. A lot of times my kids are the priority, right? And finding that balance as a single mom really has come in the pause, because some days it's okay, kids, you've got to get some things done on your own because I've got to get this done. And there's times when I tell clients or whatever, I'm sorry, I'm not available this week. I've got to focus on the priority, and that comes in the pause and in slowing down. So yeah, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you've shared. You truly are a gorgeous human being. You've earned the title, right? And that you share that with other women as well, and model it, right? Model the fact that life isn't always perfect, that things don't always go exactly how we plan, but we get up, we show up, and we bring ourselves fully to the situation. And it is definitely more than enough you've poured into us, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we are about to close out with our final speaker of this session on leadership resilience. We have the fabulous Paul Gordon, who has appeared on TV and stages worldwide to well over 2 billion people, and has been giving presentations since 1987. I was alive in that year. It's a vintage year. And has been training countless thousands of people to get out of their own way and say what they truly mean. And he will be using his unique presentation method and principles to show how effective self-expression can help you lead with resilience. So I'm going to bring Paul up and turn the time over to him.
Hey. So, okay, let's take a look at this for just 1 second from the point of view of getting out of your own way and saying exactly what you mean. Leadership, coaches, I don't care what it is that you're doing, and I don't care what you plan to do. The fact is that you get in your own way, and you've been doing it since you were little. So let's kind of try to wrap our minds around this stuff and figure out some of the ways that I can offer you that give you an ability to actually do the same for yourself. I don't want you to stop yourself. You've been stopping yourself way too long. Stop stopping yourself. For God's sake, stop stopping yourself. Okay, so let's look at this. A little bit about me, for what it's worth. When I was growing up, I was the third smallest kid in school. The first shortest was a midget, the second shortest was a dwarf, and then there was me. No self-respecting bully was going to pick on a midget or a dwarf, because that still is not considered so respectable, and the bully doesn't want everyone to turn against him or her, so they picked on me. That made me feel very shy, introverted, self-conscious, and my journey from there to doing this is based on my attempt to get out of my own way, because I had two choices, just like you do. You can either recede into your own little closet, or you can explore some of the other stuff and see what it's like to try to be more of your own unfettered self. And in so doing, you can always go back into the closet. You can always recede into your own cave. You can always be the introvert. In fact, I'm still a very introverted person. I'm just not showing you that part of me now because that won't be effectual. My message, what is important, what is essential, is that which I know I need to explain. And that brings me to the first issue here. Chances are you're kind of bad on camera. I see it all day long. I've been watching this stuff. If you're bad on camera so that you choose not to be on camera at all, you have no idea whether or not you could be good on camera. So you owe it to yourself to not stay in the cave, but actually do your best to begin and start to let yourself explore, knowing that you can always go back into the cave and not do more stuff on social media or video content or whatever it is. In truth, if you're presenting on a stage, you ought to be good. You can be even better than most of the other people because there's a big difference between memorizing something and speaking your truth from the depths of your soul. And I'll get to that in a moment. So the other person who is potentially bad on camera is someone who isn't sure if they can do it. And the fact is that everybody has doubts, but you always start with your doubts and then get some guidance and give it a shot and see what you can do. And then you move forward. So that's no reason to stop yourself either. Then there are the people who are delusionally thinking they're good on camera and actually they suck at it. These people are not beyond help, but actually these people have been told by their mommies or daddies that they can do no wrong, and somehow they're not willing to remain open and pay attention and see the various other possibilities out here that can allow them to get out of their own way and actually nurture the inner truth that they truly want to say. And instead, they just delusionally think they're all that in a bag of chips, and they're stuck not learning. Being open-minded allows you to be able to move forward. So there's the other person who's bad on camera, and this may be you. Bad on camera because you think that what you need to do is what you've been spoon-fed by so many of the authoritative gurus out there who are saying, here, I have a swipe file you have to memorize. Here, I have a script. I have a template. I have the ability for you to copy paste and then put it on your teleprompter app. And you know what? That stuff sucks. Doesn't make you look real, doesn't make you look genuine, doesn't make you feel like yourself. And the fact is that you speak differently than the way you write, and you write differently than the way you speak. So you have to actually allow yourself to get out of your own way and say exactly what you mean. This is important. Why is it important? Well, we're talking about leadership today. Leadership, good, true, effectual leadership, embodies a certain series of qualities. One of them is being relatively honest and genuine. Honesty and and being honest and being genuine. Honesty and ingenuity. Honest is one thing, genuine is another, and the fact is that both of them together are essential. Being a leader is not about spewing forth the tropes and the, I don't know, the quotes and the cliches that anyone can get anywhere else. That won't make you a unique force to be paid attention to, because when they can get it from somewhere else and you're just spewing the same old shit, then you're going to sound just like everybody else instead of allowing yourself to present something truly unique, something that only you have. While we're on the concept of uniqueness, I might as well mention this. How unique are you? What are the odds that you showed up on the planet? Well, let's take a look at this for just a moment. The odds that you showed up on the planet based on various criteria like the human genome, the 32 peptides and nucleotides that combine to make the double helix, all of that stuff combined with how people come together in various parts of the world, the diaspora, moving from place to place and meeting up, how your parents were able to eventually birth you into the world. The chances that you showed up here are 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. That's how unique you are. No one can think like you. No one can assess a situation like you. No one can actually explain things the way you can when you're not memorizing someone else's copy-paste scripted templated bullshit. Maybe there's a difference between the way I express things and the way you express things. You might have noticed that I do curse from time to time. If you don't curse, that's fine. Leave it to me. But that's not essential. This is just me being me. I want you to learn to be you. Why? Because of that 1 in 400 trillion, the uniqueness that you deserve to be able to unlock and unleash upon the world is only yours to be able to offer. No one else will ever do it just like you. Therefore, let it rip. So what do? We explain our passionate desire to say stuff, not that you think people want to hear. Lots of coaches with their advertising bullshit are always saying the same old thing that sounds so formulaic, so strategic, so manipulative, and so actually normalized and generic that it bugs the living crap out of me. And I'm not interested in any of those people, except that I feel for them because they have no idea that actually abandoning the scripted, templated, advertising patter crap would allow them to not say what people have told them they should say because that's what people want to hear, but actually to say what they know people need to hear. That's why I say to you, chances are pretty damn good that you suck on video. I don't judge. That's not a judgment. If that's an empirical fact, you can always improve, because all you need to do is to know what you don't know and turn that into simply that which you do not know, and that which you don't know you can always find solutions to. I've been teaching people this stuff since 1987. Like our fine host said, the truth that you can get out of your own way and say exactly what you mean is the sky's the limit for you. As soon as you stop trying to be liked and stop trying to say the shit that people tell you people want to hear from you, and start saying what you know inside is the stuff at the core of what you think about this particular issue or that particular issue that people need to hear from you. That's what's going to make you explain things and express things that have tremendous value that only you can deliver. This is some serious badass, potentially healthy shizzle. And if you embrace this concept, then let's get into what the next thing here. When you're delivering something to somebody on video or on a stage, I know a lot of people get scared on stages, but stage, video, it's the same exact principle. Who are you talking to? You want to know? I'll tell you. When you look into that camera lens right there, or when you look out into an audience, and I know some of you may have spoken in front of people. I've heard people say, "Ooh, I spoke in front of an audience of 50 people today. Wow. Oh, I spoke in front of an audience of 100 people today. Wow. Oh, I spoke in front of a group of 500. Wow." I've actually presented on much larger situations, and I tell you, there's no difference. When you're performing on a TV show that's going out to 40 million people, you're looking into the lens and you're addressing one person every time. I've performed on stages in front of 25,000 people. I know there's lots of people who've performed on, much bigger stages than me, but most of you won't have actually been in a situation where you've presented in front of 25,000 people. And you know what? When you look out into a sea of heads, you don't look at 25,000 people. You make eye contact-ish with one person here, one person there, back in the crowd, in the front of the crowd, wherever it is. And each time you are addressing one and only one. Why? Because every individual who's going to see your content on social media or wherever it is, or live on stages, every single person is his or her own right there and then. And that person will have that connection when they feel like you're actually focused on paying attention on an individual basis. So let's extrapolate forward. When you make eye contact with a lens or with people in an audience, what is it that you're doing? You're making contact directly with someone about what you care about. So who is it that you're imagining you're speaking to? You're speaking to one of your dearest, closest friends every single time. And that person supports you and gets what you're saying and is smiling and nodding. That's who you're talking to every time. 25,000 people, I'm not trying to convince them, and I'm not looking at them as people like a bunch of cops or a judge or people on a panel where I have to defend my PhD. It's not like that. I'm not looking at these people as if they're judging me and expecting the greatness, and if I don't deliver, they will be severely disappointed. No, I'm looking at each and every one of them with a warm sense of that person as a dear friend who gets me, understands me, supports me, and is totally on my side. I'm coming from that perspective with the things that I know need to be said. Therefore, I'm delivering it to people who get me. Why is that so important? Because when you are explaining and expressing what you want to express and explain to whoever is paying attention, and I'm talking about being a leader here, you are offering an authoritative approach to someone who you are including, someone who you are encouraging to rise to the level of that inclusion. Now, here's another thing about that. When you imagine, when you actually, let's go beyond imagine, when you understand and embrace the notion that somebody is actually interested in rising to the level of what it is that you're speaking about, addressing, pointing toward, locating in space and time, you are encouraging them to be part of your little one-on-one team in a way that treats them with the respect of come to this, catch up, let's discuss what you don't know yet. Let's discuss what you don't get. If you have any questions, ask. If you don't know a word I'm using, there's an invention recently, it came out, maybe you've heard of Google. You can find out what the word is if it's confusing, but don't limit yourself. In fact, rise to the occasion of this event we're having, this communion we're having, this fellowship that we're having. I've heard a lot of people in this online business space talk to people like they're in third grade level. You know what? I've spoken to third graders. They're pretty damn smart. And when you treat them like intelligent, thoughtful people who are sponges, wanting to learn the next, you will be addressing people who are much smarter than what most of the people out there in this online space are actually doing. Because most of the people that I've seen talk as if they're speaking to a third grader, and they don't know what a third grader is, so they speak like people are stupid. They're talking down instead of talking to an intelligent person who can rise to the level of the information and the spirit of what you're speaking about. That allows people to decide to come with you and scale up each time. That's the interaction that supports and nurtures the leadership relationship. So, what do we have here? You look into the lens, you speak to one person who gets, supports, knows, and grooves on what you're saying. You learn how to speak your God's honest truth. You learn how to go away from the concept of, shall we say, telling what you think people want to hear in order to try to convince them. And then you move towards saying what needs to be said so that when they get it, they will convince themselves. And in so doing, you may choose to start with the concept of copy-paste scripted, templated bullshit, but you want to run away from that as soon as possible because you move away from speaking what you read or write, which is fundamentally different from being the actual speaking person that you really are when you're thinking live, and you move toward that animated, compassionate, honest, truly energetic sense of self. Now, where does this all come to? This boils down to the concept that what you have to say, being the unique individual that you are, is so essential to the benefit of the universe, people, communities, and then inside the people, at a microscopic elemental level that is within all of us and out in the world and beyond the world, out in the universe. That's why I say the essential concepts that you can offer are actually that which at the elemental structure of the universe changes and raises and improves the vibrations of everything. Each time you open your mouth, each time you articulate something you truly think of, you truly believe. That's how essential it is. That's why I tell you right now, chances are good you're kind of bad on video. And I want you to embrace the possibility that you're simply holding yourself back from being good on video or a live stage presentation. Because there's nothing out there holding you back. It's all in here. Comes from the fact that you have mommy issues, daddy issues, inner self-critic issues, and peer issues from when you were really young. And you made a decision that in the face of people laughing at you or bullying you or trying to make you feel like shit, that you decided that failure is bad. So fitting in is the way. And I'm here to tell you, everyone you believe in, follow, pay attention to in the mentorship world or the authorship world or the poetry world or the music business world or the film world or any other. All those people who you pay attention to, the unique ones that have enough balls to actually say what needs to be said in the ways that I'm talking about here, all those people have abandoned doing it the normal, templated, scripted way in order to be able to tap into their own originality, individuality, uniqueness. And that's what you love. That's what you pay attention to. That's why you would, if I had 2 tickets in my hands, 2 different tickets, same night, same time. One is for a Rolling Stones cover band. And if you don't like the Rolling Stones, just make that a cover band of something that you really like, okay? And the other is the actual Rolling Stones or whatever real deal thing that you actually know. Cover band or the real deal? Which one do you want? They're free. They're both the same distance from your house. They're both happening at the same exact time. Would you take the cover band? Of course not. The fact is, the stuff you pay attention to is because it's original and unique. And there's zero reason for you to stop yourself. So stop stopping yourself. That's it. I don't know what else I need to say here. What else do I need to say here? Oh, you may have noticed that I'm standing. Body, voice, and face integration. If you're on social media and you want to make content, there ain't a single AI in the world that is going to make you feel and sound unique, because everybody is always going to have that itching sensation in the back of their brain when they're watching something that is AI generated or edited that makes them question, what am I not seeing? And when you're just presenting like the real deal that you are, unedited, raw, live streamed, in a talk, in a conversation, in a webinar, when you drop some of that manipulative horseshit, people will start to understand this is the real deal. I can't get this from anywhere else. That's what I feel. That's what I'm compelled to follow and pay attention to. I encourage you to do the same. Consider it anyway. I'm not about to tell you what to do. You go do your thing. If you think what I've just said is a crock of crap, I ain't got a nickel in it. I could care less. But I do know this. Everything I've done in the world speaking on, stages like was said before. I've been on I've been on stages and TV shows worldwide to well over 2 billion people. Billion with a B, yes, that's not an exaggeration, that's 100% an understatement. And it's probably much higher, but it doesn't matter. The numbers are the numbers. The largeness had everything to do with exactly what I'm saying right here. And when I was little, I could have remained in my cave. I could have stayed in the closet, shy, introverted. Everything I do here, I do because I believe in the message. I follow the message. The message builds the power. The power builds the confidence. The confidence generates a cycle of authority and liberated self-expression. And that allows you to continue to extract and unleash all the truths that you deserve to show not only the business world, but your friends and family and your kids, because they will see it in the way you say the stuff that you truly believe in life, and they will rise to the occasion of that much faster and with much more enthusiasm than if they see you just being some cookie cutter, yes man, corporate ass, suck it type of person who doesn't know how to actually be their own in life now with everything you got. Okay, done. I'm outie.
Thank you so much for bringing your energy, bringing your message. As someone who was bullied growing up, also, I think a lot of people are in different ways. My dad was a military man, so being a transfer girl to inner city schools with no friends, I say bullying in the full sense of the term, right? I think a lot of times people blame things outside of themselves. They blame those experiences, the bullying, whatever, for holding them back. But I think as I've listened to your message, and as I know from my own personal experience, sometimes we're our own worst bullies. I think the things we say to ourselves or the way we hold ourselves back are sometimes more powerful than those voices from other people growing up. So if you had one tip, one trick in coming through that and in owning yourself as you've done fully here today, what would you say? Like if there was a kid being bullied right now or someone who was trying to overcome that, what would you say is a tip to finding your uniqueness and not becoming your own worst enemy?
Well, I'll answer that in just a sec. The only word I disagreed with what you just said was sometimes. Sometimes we are the this and that.
Most of the time.
Remove that word
All the
because
time.
yeah,
are.
exactly. And you're absolutely right. My dad was a military guy too. So here's the thing with anyone, but with kids, I mean, let's appeal to the wounded kid inside anyone viewing this. So speaking to the kid, I say anybody who's going to make you feel small and less than is not on your side. And the people who are not on your side don't actually matter. Therefore, anybody who is in the way and making you feel unsupported and any of the negative sides, 100% doesn't matter. Though you think they may, I want you to understand that it's possible for just a moment, even in your imagination, that you can remove them from the picture. The only ones that matter are the ones that are saying, yeah, give it a shot. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, get back up, try again. Those ones matter. And those are the only ones you should be paying attention to and listening to.
Yeah, thank you. And that resonates with me also. I think we can be our biggest critics, but we can also be our number one fans.
Yeah.
And I think you've demonstrated that today. And so I really appreciate that message that you've shared, not just with us, but shared with billions of people around the world, and the motivation and inspiration to lead and live with resilience and find your voice. I love that message. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. It's a pleasure. Thanks. Thanks
All
for
right.
doing what you
Thank
did today.
you. Oh, thank you. And I just want to thank all of those who came and presented, who shared their messages, shared their hearts and their life experience with us. It has been a wealth of information. I want to thank Anshu for all that she's done in creating this platform, in creating a safe place and a global platform to allow individuals the opportunity to find their voice, to share their voice, and to share their message. It is so important. And as has been shared throughout today, leading with resilience, living with resilience and grace stems from knowing who you are, finding your voice, and communicating that to the world. And so hopefully you will take one thing today. We can listen to messages, we can hear information, but the thing that's going to make the difference in your life is the one thing that you put into action today. And so I just want to leave you with that, leave you with all the wishes as we close out this year for a new and happy new year, being refreshed and starting your journey and your path of leading with resilience and living your authentic life. And I will leave you with that and say goodbye. Thank you for joining with us for the 3rd annual Global Speakers Talk Live annual conference.
Together we are Global Speakers Talk.